Hello, welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri Smith. Today is Monday, October 17th. It's the best month of the year. I hope you're enjoying it. And if it's your first time on our channel, this is a live show we do on Mondays and Fridays where we just kind of hang out, talk about what's in the news, what's going on in our life, and try and have a bit of fun with each other. So welcome. A couple of announcements for those of you who are regulars. I see you, Pirate. Pirate says Keri's wearing the best hat again. Yes, this is the best hat. It's direct from Pirate from the UK. Authentic, official. Anyway, couple of announcements. This is the book we've been reading, Political Ponderology. We're going to be discussing this on, Sunday, October 23rd. This book is amazing. Even if you don't come to book club and don't want to discuss it with us, I hope you read it. I highly recommend getting the version that has the foreword by Michael Rechtenwald. He is brilliant. There is an interview with him on our channel on Deprogrammed if you're interested in hearing more from him. But that's coming up on Sunday, October 23rd. The other announcement is this at the end of the month, I'm going to be at the Content House. Chrissy Maier's doing another Content House in Orlando, Florida with Alex Stein. I know some of the Friday Night Tights guys are going to be there. Ryan Cannell, I think. Mike Harlow, who's one of the guests today, is going to be there. Gino Visconti, like some great comedians. And anyway, if you're not already subscribed to Chrissy Maier, go and subscribe to her because it's crazy. It's like a 48-hour, 72-hour live stream with all kinds of people mixing it up and having conversations. And last time we went roller skating, all kinds of events. So you can follow along there if you're interested. That's at the end of the month. And the Orlando Friday Night Tights and Geeks and Gamers meetups are happening the same weekend. So if you guys are going to be there in Florida, I'll be there. I hope to see you. Just come and say hi. And I think that's it. Okay, without further ado, please welcome. I'm so excited for this today. Just having a ball with these folks. These are three of my best friends. Please welcome. They're all regular guests on the show. Oh, except Kieran White is making his debut on Deprogram. Please give it up for Deb Fillman from The Reason We Learn, and Mike Harlow from Walk Away and Gays Against Groomers, and Kieran White from Wokescreen, which you guys can find here on YouTube. Welcome, guys.
Well, hello.
Thanks for sitting through those long announcements.
I was just scrolling.
I'm getting better at it. I sometimes forget everything that has to be said, and now I'm like, okay, I got my list. Here we go. Mike Harlow, I'm going to be seeing you at the end of the month.
I'm so excited. I was so jealous that it looked so much fun last time. I'm so excited.
Plus, aren't you moving to Florida now? So you're going to get a preview.
I think what we're going to do, so my friend is moving with us. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to fly there for that. And then he's going to fly and meet me. And we're going to explore Florida after that.
Oh, congratulations.
I'm so jealous. I wish I were moving to Florida.
move. Let's take
I
over.
want to, but I can't, I can't. So
I'm just jealous you're allowed in the US.
Yeah,
I'm in the gulag. It's not that great this time of year.
They can't kick us out. They'd like to.
Kieran is exiled in an undisclosed location, from what I understand. That's true.
You see the bunker grey?
Yeah.
That's the bunker wall, I'm afraid. And the gulag isn't this great this time of year. It's getting colder and colder, and Florida sounds even more appealing. But alas, my time will come. Just when? Who knows?
It's his fault that I'm moving, by the way. It was always I was trying to plan it out in the future and stuff, and he was like, "Why don't you just go now,
no.
you stupid bitch?"
I crack the whip and I say, Mikey, look, stop causing problems and just commit. And here we are.
The whip, and that's where our babies came from.
Exactly. What can I say? You're going to tell them that story when they grow up.
My friend who's moving with me is in the chat. Am I allowed to like announce that?
Sure.
I think he said yes, but I don't want to. My friend Matt is moving with that. We're moving there together.
Matt Antar. If you guys don't know, I have an interview with Matt Antar where he talks about his leaving the left story And when he woke up, and for him, it was being a New Yorker during the COVID years. It's
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Being a New Yorker, period, will do it. But then, in COVID, it's like,
Yeah. So for anybody who might be new and is not familiar with you guys, why don't you just let's go around the circle, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where they can find you, what it is that you do. Mr. Harlow, why don't you start?
Yeah.
Oh God. My name's Mike. I have a YouTube channel. I make stupid, ridiculous videos, short, funny ones, and longer ones. My YouTube channel is basically just like a poo-poo platter of insanity. So it's been a bit barren. I was in exile for a long time in New York too. I still feel like I am mentally, but so I'm kind of just getting back into it. I have a big new video coming out tomorrow. I do stuff with Gays Against Groomers, with Walkaway, with anyone that wants to hear my stupid jokes.
Yeah, but you're a fierce advocate for good stuff too. So don't sell yourself short.
You are.
And what about you, Mr. White? I feel like we're in the movie Clue. It's Mr. White in the bottom right quadrant with the candlestick.
Flames?
Yeah.
On the side of my face.
Well, who am I? That is a question I ask myself every day. But no, in short, I'm Kieran White. I'm a background as a multimedia journalist, but currently I'm just trying to fill the culture void with better culture through Wokescreen, which I'm slowly building out. But I'll touch on that a bit more later. But yeah, just trying to fight back bad culture with better culture.
You are doing some great short explainer videos about wokeness. For anybody that's not familiar, and you can find a link below in the description, on Wokescreen, Kieran has been putting out these very concise.
My Wokesplain series.
Wokesplaining, yes, I like it. I like it. And then Deb Fillman, returning guest. You had so many compliments about the last time you were on.
Well, that's
people just
awesome.
loved hearing from you.
Thank you. So I am. I guess the best way to describe it would be sort of a parent educator. I'm also a regular teacher. I do tutoring and teaching, and I have a background in education. So my channel, The Reason We Learn, and I also have a Substack and some other platforms. But my primary place of residence on the internet is The Reason We Learn YouTube, where I produce content mostly aimed at parents who are trying to figure out what the heck is going on with education in America, like the good, the bad, the ugly. Most of it's ugly, unfortunately. What the word salad means. I act as kind of a translator.
I love her more.
I try to, you've got your James Lindsay, right? Or he's like the professor. He's the guy who explains it in, fairly academic terms, so that, then I study that, and then I try to like bring it down to parent level. This is what it sounds like in a classroom. This is what it sounds like to your kid. And also I'm a mom, so I can add my 2 cents there as, far as being relatable. Like, I kind of know what you guys are going through. Not that all parents have the same experience, but I know how frustrating it can be. I know how helpless you could feel when, they tell you something's good and you don't think it's good, but you get a lot of pushback. So most of what I try to do is just empower parents with some information that will cut through the gaslighting, and they can then make their own decisions about what they think is best for their kids. Yeah. So, and while I've got your attention, I would like to give a shout out to my eldest daughter, Emma, who is turning 19 today. And I said I would do a shout out on your show. I told her to check it out. If not now, then on the replay. She's in college, and I didn't get to see her this weekend. I miss her terribly. And so if you're watching, honey, I love you and happy birthday. And I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. And that's it. Mommy out.
October is the best birthday month. Happy birthday to your daughter. I also want to say happy birthday to Kim. If you're watching, it's also Kim's birthday. There's so many birthdays this month. I love it. Mike Harlow. What?
Happy birthday, Keri.
Oh, thank you.
It's your birthday today?
No, it was last week.
Oh my God. You're like, happy birthday. And Keri's like, no.
It was fun. We went to the Barrel. My husband was like, do you want to go to a fancy restaurant? I'm like, I want to go to the Cracker Barrel. I haven't been in forever. It was excellent. Mike Harlow, you got a little bit of feedback on your mic. Just so you know, when other people are talking, if you want to mute yourself and then take yourself off mute.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Or no?
I think that's better. Yeah.
By the way, I have to give a shout out too. Thank you so much. Pirate Tom got me a mic. So if I say, I'm still like learning how to use it, so it's maybe not perfect yet, but oh my God, I owe you so much, dude. Thank you so much.
He's right there, Pirate Tomsky, to let you know there's a slight echo coming from someone.
I'm like a grandma, so I'm still trying to learn.
Pirate Tomsky.
Is it better now though?
It is better now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like Rain Man when it, or no, the Rain Man was smart. I'm the anti Rain Man with audio.
Sunman, you're Sunman.
Sunman. Also, Emma, I need to see your nose piercing. I have like closed up ones. So I think Emma's maybe the one person who could pull it off.
Yeah, it looks cute. Let me see if I'll find a picture. You guys continue.
So I just wanted to say hi to Tina. She says, I'm drinking my Kerfefe iced and out of his skull as is proper. And you guys, we put links up to these 3 guests below, and Pirate Tomsky has also highlighted them here in the chat, so you can go and check them out and find out what they're up to if you follow those links. Just quickly, before we get into our topics, Progressor gives a super chat. Thank you, sir, and says, speaking of book club, a week or so ago, I finally finished one of your Unsafe Space Days, Crime and Punishment. Oh, wow. Congratulations. That book is amazing. If you guys haven't read Crime and Punishment recently, or if you've never read it, you should read it again. Like that book affected me. It stuck with me for a while. It's sort of about like this book that we're reading now, the nonfiction book, Political Ponerology, which is about the science of evil, totalitarianism, and psychopathy, and how those things are interconnected. I think of Crime and Punishment as a fictional book that explores those same things, like the nature of evil and redemption, and whether redemption's possible. And it's such a great book. Anyway, that's all.
Our Dangerous Rhetoric friends gave me a copy. I've been meaning to read it forever. So I'm reading it
this
soon.
one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this
looks amazing.
They gave me this copy. I had so many people recommended it. Nina Infinity, Dangerous Rhetoric. So you guys should read it. It's great. So, okay, we've got a couple things we want to talk about today. And we're just it's October. It's like the best month. We're just going to have some fun with some stuff in the news. But I did want to talk about something concerning before we get into a funnier topic. You guys saw what has happened to Alex Jones and the verdict.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this up. So this is an article that's from a leftist publication. I say leftist. It's my opinion that they're leftist, but The Atlantic. Sometimes they get it right. A lot of times they get it wrong.
Leftist.
So this article is called "The Martyrdom of Alex Jones," and then the subtitle is "Right-Wing Anger Over a Defamation Judgment Reflects Disgust at Seeing the Rules Applied to Them."
No, pretty sure that's not it.
Yeah.
Rules. I mean, when did the rules not apply to people on the right? Did Kyle Rittenhouse, anybody? Thrown in jail, like huge bond.
January 6th.
January 6th, people still rotting in jail. Like, meanwhile, the guy, who ran people over in Waukesha is doing his own defense. And the judge is literally giving him a law education while he's sitting there occupying the seat in his sovereign defense thing and using taxpayer dollars and time to basically waste everybody's time. And we all know he did it. It's completely ridiculous. So the title alone, what's so frustrating, Keri, sorry to just like bogart here.
Go ahead.
But this false I'm going to just throw a false premise up there and then I'm going to write my piece. Now, it's fine if this is an opinion piece and they're just like, this is my op-ed and I'm going to write my op-ed. But the way that the Atlantic positions things is as if it's journalism. Like, this is news. Mm-hmm. This is not news. This is a Twitter post or tweet spread out across many, many, many paragraphs. That's the kind of thing I would expect to see on social media. It's not even remotely reasoned.
To be clear, I think the story about the judgment against Jones is news. like writing a story about
yeah.
but what you're saying, what I hear you saying, if I'm getting it right, is to do a story about the Twitter reaction is what's crazy. Let's talk about the Twitter reaction and
Right.
put down all these people for what they had to say on Twitter. Like, that's not journalism.
Well, and even that is inaccurate. To say that the reason people are reacting on Twitter is they're frustrated with the rules being applied to them. That's absolutely a judgment of what there's. I doubt anybody wrote in, I'm pissed off the rules are being applied to us, whoever us is, our side. Most things that I've seen, and I'm sure it's not comprehensive, have referred to the size of the judgment, have referred to the chilling effect this is going to have on freedom of speech. Because if you're going to levy close to $1 billion in punitive damages, look, we're not even debating that whether he did anything wrong. Okay. So let's say he did. Let's say he's guilty of, whatever they said, in the lawsuit that he was guilty of. But this damage amount, jury amounts of this size for words you said.
Yeah.
How did they quantify the damage suffered by these families to come up with that figure? And then what's it going to mean? We already saw it, I think, today. Kanye West may be getting sued by the families of George Floyd and whoever's attached to that case because he said fentanyl led to his death. Kanye expressed his opinion that fentanyl led to his death. And they want to sue him for saying that. That's literally his opinion.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about what this means in terms of why this is a noteworthy story? First of all, as you pointed out, Deb, the judgment against Alex Jones is $1 billion with a B dollars, $1 billion,
Crazy.
which, I mean, the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed. When you get to $1 billion, I don't think anyone in the right mind thinks he's going to be able to pay that. It's excessive on purpose, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Well, and it is nearly 100 times the settlement that the families of Sandy Hook received from the killer.
That's crazy. It's also people have pointed out, like, where's the judgment against the financial institutions and the banks?
Thank you.
And the housing. Was that you that said that, Deb?
I don't know if I said it. I think lots of people have said it. I certainly wasn't the first because that you're talking about millions of people who were damaged. And I mean, they just walked away.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
This though, I think is, I think the point that you were getting to or about to get to with the Kanye West thing is Alex Jones, for me, he's sort of been a canary in a coal mine on a lot of issues. I mean, look back to when they first banned him across platforms. And at the time, Twitter was the last platform that he was still up on. He had already been banned on YouTube and Facebook. And I saw friends of mine who consider themselves to be liberal who were sharing petitions to get him kicked off of Twitter, like the last remaining place they wanted him banned from. And I remember at the time trying to have conversations with them about, like, that's not a liberal thing to do, to censor him, even if you don't agree with him on things or you think he's awful. What's going to come next? And sure enough, what came next in the ensuing years, more and more encroaching censorship, more people permanently banned on Twitter, more people permanently banned. He's sort of the first. They start with someone that they think is so objectionable or has such a bad reputation that people won't stand up for him. And they're doing it now. They did it with censorship. Now they're doing this kind of financial punishment. What do you yeah.
You've got the size of the judgment, right? And then you've also got what it's for, which is essentially, and I'm not saying that you can't cause damages with speech. That's what defamation is. That's how you establish a defamation is taking place, is you have financial losses, you have some kind of damage that's done that can be measured. Obviously there's criminal defamation where you accuse someone of a crime that they didn't commit. That is already, you don't need to prove any damages. That's presumed to be damaging. But other than that, it's still words. At the end of the day, it's still words that you're putting to $1 billion. So you have that freedom of speech component. You're not free to defame, But if what you're guilty of is defamation, then you have the damages have to match the damages you pay have to have some relationship to the damages suffered.
Yeah.
And this was a defamation suit. This wasn't criminal this wasn't some kind of crime that he committed. It was defamation. So what did the families lose that was quantified at $1 billion? That's what, and I don't even know how they got these punitive damages, like pain and suffering. Like, where did they come up with this number? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Pirate Tomsky says the prosecution even said something about punishing him so much that he could never recover.
I was going to say, I mean, this isn't anything really to do with, you know, what people of sound mind would debate over how you qualify such a payment. It is to send a message that if we can go after Alex Jones, then anyone that falls under the run of the ladder of his power or influence or bank account, then we can sure as hell come after you. And so this is not so much of, well, $1 billion, our accountants have worked out that this comes to this figure because of this, this, and this. That's what people of sound mind do, as we're doing here, trying to say, okay, how can you account for that? But to them, it's not that at all. It's a case of, we will try and destroy, and the only vector through which we can do that is this defamation case, you know?
And it's also, like Deb had said earlier, it's about who these things are applied to and who they're not, where BLM can burn the country down for months and months and months to no accountability. And then, you know, people mildly inconvenience some of the most powerful people in the world for an afternoon or stand in front of a building and they rot in jail for the rest of their lives. So this is just going to be another way that that's applied now. For me personally, like just a personal example, I had a defamation case against the LGBT Center in New York and some of these media outlets when we did a walkaway event. It was me, Blair White, Brandon Strock, and they had made all these claims about us that we are openly white supremacists, that we've caused, and they'd accused us of crimes as well, saying that we had committed violence against Jews, Muslims, blacks, gays. We united every group in our violence. And it was
equitable violence.
It was thrown out, of course. So, you know, and this is just going to be another way, like what they're going to do now with anyone questioning the narrative about George Floyd. And you're going to get these liberal judges, and a lot of times also Republican or Trump appointed judges are no better.
But you also notice as well, at least in the debates that I've seen online about this, and I use the word debate loosely because it's on Twitter, but you notice as well, when you have this kind of topic, it's always very nuanced, right? You know, I personally can hold the view that it was very distasteful. But at the same time, I don't think he done anything wrong, because it's his right to, there's no criminal aspect to what he'd done. But equally, when you have people on the left that talk about George Floyd and that, there's no nuance. It's very much whatever protects the cause, whatever protects the mission and the narrative, because you can't let anybody get into that. Whereas on the right, it's completely different with a topic like this. There's a lot of different views on things. So the way they've kind of gone, well, they're moaning because it suddenly applies to them. No, as you quite rightly point out, people are talking about the excessive judgment on this, all the different things. There's a lot of people that have the same view that, yes, it was probably in bad taste what he done, but he's got a right to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's poorly written, to put it lightly.
And I think it's to make an example out of him, to dissuade other people from questioning any official narratives. I would so much rather have somebody like Alex Jones, who will say something like this about Sandy Hook and be wrong, than for people to just never question these narratives. Yes, he was wrong in this instance, but there are plenty where he could have been right. What about the Las Vegas shooting that we never heard another word about, that was very shady?
Right. There has to be space for people to question an official narrative. You can't,
right.
and this is meant to prevent people from doing so.
And realistically, the people pushing an official narrative, if you will, have an obligation to be transparent, to give all the facts as they have them. If it's in the public's interest to know something, then don't be shady. Don't hide things. Don't get all cagey when people ask questions. The longer you conceal information beyond the point where it would it is in the public's interest to know. People do start to fill in the gaps about why you're doing it. If what gets in the way, I think, especially in the Sandy Hook case, is that tragedies, acts of violence like that are instantaneously politicized. They don't even hit the wires before it's a gun debate, before it's a debate about schools, before it's a debate about red versus blue. And then when you have an activist press, activist media, and people are less interested in, give me the facts. What do you know? And you go for it in front of the cameras. You go, well, all we know so far is this. And you leave it at that for 2 weeks until you find out. You go, he had got, the mother had a gun collection. As soon as you start going down that path, it's a lot easier for the Alex Joneses of the world to come in and start to interpret gaps, interpret the reason behind the politicizing, the reason behind the, opining and this and that. And you're almost like begging for it because the media is not news anymore. It's infotainment. And so I really think it's extra galling to me that they're going to put this all on Alex Jones. And again, not to take anything away from, whether he should or shouldn't have said the things. Please don't hear me defending him. I got to be clear about that, because the second you try to take any kind of a gray area position on an issue like this, people immediately go, you're defending him. And it's like, oh my God, no, I'm defending common sense and reason. And common sense says there are a lot of people who are guilty in this situation. This was set in motion. And even people like Alex Jones get as big as Alex Jones got because of all the obfuscation, all of the, secrecy, all of the politicization of these big stories.
Yeah. I see people in the chat are having a discussion now about Kanye West and his comments. Did you want to tell us, Deb, like that part of the story that you're saying now, because I had not seen this, where they're saying they're going to sue Kanye? What's that about?
Well, it's been floated, I guess. The family of George Floyd are saying, are outraged and contemplating suing Kanye West because apparently he made some public remarks about fentanyl leading to his death, or fentanyl killing him. Which could, if you're going to take the coroner's approach of like what literally caused his heart to stop beating in the moment that it did, it was obviously that police officer. That's what the case decided, that it was homicide. It was death by virtue of this human being. Whether he would have died anyway 10 minutes later if left to his own devices, we'll never know, because it didn't happen that way. It happened that he died because somebody basically kneeled on him and he couldn't breathe. Now, there was a contributing factor. Even the coroner said it was a contributing factor. So here's Kanye saying, I think the fentanyl, killed him. Well, it was a contributing factor. So the answer is yes, it did. So did Derek Chauvin. You know what I mean? Like, they're contributing factors, but they want to sue. And I truly believe that the Alex Jones decision was kind of like the spark that lit this. And it's not going to end there. We're going to see it again and again and again, where people are going to try to, litigate their opinions, either to get a cash payout just because they're greedy and they want money. And I don't know if that's what they want. I'm just saying there'll be people who do that.
Right.
Or if it's because the news media is kind of getting off on this. And let's face it, Kanye recently, because he sort of wore that shirt that said White Lives Matter with Candace Owens, he's now on their hit list. If he wasn't on it before for like 10 different
he's
reasons,
surely on the list now.
he's
Yes.
surely on now. It's like, has there been, oh great, now Siri thinks I'm talking to her. He's been on somebody's list.
She's such a Karen.
Yeah.
So nosy.
She is. But he's been on somebody's, hit list for forever. I mean, it's like the left, the right, he steps up and grabs a mic away from somebody. Has there been a month that's ever gone by in the history of Kanye West being a household name where somebody wasn't pissed off at him? And right now, because he's sort of aligned himself with the right, whatever that means, they're going to gun for him. They're going to go after him every which way, because he's engaging now in wrong think and wrong speak. And it probably wouldn't even matter what he said or about whom, unless you were saying something negative about somebody also on the right, they'd make hay out of it. So I don't know if it's going to go forward, but I do think it's a clue that we're going to see more of this.
Well, go ahead, Mikey.
Oh, I was just saying, if I could say also, so now Kanye, I think it was one of the times that I agreed with Ben Shapiro is something he said about Kanye is you live by the Kanye, you die by the Kanye. So if you want to kind of align with him when he's saying things you agree with, you kind of got to own also the crazy shit that he says. So something that bothers me though is, now he's been saying a lot of crazy stuff about Jews and anti-Semitic things. And what drives me crazy is that now the entire left jumps in. They suddenly care about Jews, and they want him banned from everything. They want his banking taken away. And what drives me crazy about that is the only thing that does is it gives a license to all these people who believe these conspiracy theories about Jews to be like, see?
By the way, can we talk about what he said? Because everybody in the media, they like to throw that out there and say he said a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. And then you're like, where can I find the quotes? Where can I find what he said? Can we talk about that for a second? Because he did say, in my opinion, he did say anti-Semitic stuff. He's basically saying that Jews run and control the media and that control a lot of the record labels, and that Black artists have to be on these Jewish controlled labels, and that kind of, he's saying that Black people should create their own companies and their own labels and get off of those ones that are owned by Jewish people. No, here's my point about that. Yes, I believe those comments come with a prejudice towards Jewish people. However, what he's saying, if he had said white people own all these record labels, white people own, and I'm going to do DEFCON 3 on white people. I'm about to open up on white people tomorrow, and I'm about to go off on white people. They would love it. They would love it if he said white people own all these labels, Black people need to get our own labels. White people control the media. They would be like, yes, all about it. He's attacking the white man. So my issue is just that they are such hypocrites about, they will only notice a prejudice or a flaw in someone's thinking when it comes to groups. They will only notice it for certain groups, and they completely support it. They support that kind of prejudice against other groups, against men, against white people, against straight people, what have you. We all know what the social justice groups are. But that's why all their outrage about it, I'm kind of like, shut the F up. Like, I don't care about your fake outrage, because you only do it in certain situations. Like, you wouldn't care. You would be putting him on the cover of magazines if he was saying that about white people own all the banks and white people own all the media. So
lose his access to the bank accounts. That's, put it that way.
Tree Surgeon was asking how anti-Semitic what Kanye said about the record companies, and I think the reason is that it supports an old trope that Jews run everything, or Jews own everything, or Jews control everything, as if they act like the Borg. And it's the same thing as saying all white people are all Black people are all. Anytime you take some kind of a marker of what a person could be, an ethnicity or religion or whatever, and you refer to it in the collective like that, you're denying individuals their agency, and you are attaching attributes, usually negative, to members of that group or whatever. And the problem is that it's an old trope about Jews that has led to a lot of persecution, murder, genocide, etc. To even to say that, to say, well, they own all the record companies. Well, first of all, that's hogwash. They don't own all. Jay-Z is pretty powerful. There's a lot of people in the record industry that are not Jewish. And even if they were, see, where you have to come back to is first principles. What if they did? What if they owned every single record label out there? Does that automatically a reason not to work with them because they're Jewish? So what? What if they did an awesome job? What if they were the best possible people to own those record labels, and they promoted the best artists ever and paid them well and everything was great? Would you care that they were Jewish? Mm-hmm. So these designations, like some group or some individual owns everything. Like the only reason you would care is if they do a poor job. So focus on they do a poor job, not that they're Jewish.
Well, also, but social justice has pushed this idea. Social justice has taught Kanye to look at people as what group they are, what ethnic or religious or racial group they are. Like that's what it teaches to do. And then when somebody's doing that and noticing and saying, hey, I notice a lot of these executives are Jewish, like, and now I'm going to criticize them the way I would white men, then they're like, no, but not that group. Like they're like, you can't do it for that group, but no, please notice it about white people and comment on it. I know you had something to say, Karen. I just want to address something in the chat real quick. Pi Susan or somebody said he threatened death to Jews. I did not see that. If you're talking about where he tweeted, you know, I'm sleepy, I'm about to go to bed, but tomorrow I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, he meant online, like talking shit. He did not threaten to kill Jewish people. That's stupid. Like, I'm sorry. That's just, if that's the comment you mean, that's not what he was saying. We disagree absolutely on that. If there was some other quote I don't know about, please put the quote in the chat. I'd like to see it so I know what we're talking about.
What
were you
I
gonna
never
say, Kieran?
understood about. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that to Deb's point. I mean, if there is no other grand point to anything he was saying other than what identity group they're part of, then yeah, I mean, what exactly? What does it matter? You know, what does it matter if I go into a shop and it's fully black owned? If I kick off about the fact that it's fully black owned, well, if my point is that and it stops at that, well, then I've got a problem with the fact of it's just black people owning a shop. You know, there's no other point. And so if his point stops at the fact that it's, you know, rightly or wrongly, fully Jewish owned and things like that, if there's no grander point there other than what identity group they're part of, well, then your problem is the identity group. So, yeah.
What I was going to say is I never understand what this point that people make about Jews when they say there are a lot of Jews in different sectors. They never get to what the next sentence of that is. There are a lot of Jews in this industry. Thus, what? There are a lot of black people in sports. There are a lot of gays in fashion. Like, and
I think you're right. It's because social justice has taught people to look at overrepresentation as necessarily a bad thing. Like, but only with certain groups. Because like you're saying, nobody looks at sports. None of the social justice people, or nobody looks at sports and says, oh, it's too many black people. That's a bad thing, that it's like overrepresentation of black people here. But they will
nobody would say that.
But they'll do it for Jewish people in banking. They'll say that, or they'll say it about men in tech, you know, or you know, men in as CEOs. There's too many men as CEO. Why don't we need more women? You know, it's like,
well, I think
it's women's sports.
But I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that it's that observation on societal power roles, right? You know, there really isn't too much power to be had out of sport, but you will notice though that they will have, they will look at it through, if they do touch on a sports thing, it won't be the sports element and the angle they go for, it'll be going celebrity, or sort of like when there's brand representation through sponsorships, that'll be the angle they go with that. But usually, as you say, it's like CEOs or people in government power and stuff. So it's all power, right? It's the power dynamic. So that's why they're very not too focused. And I mean, if you look at half the SJWs, I mean, I'm not quite sure that sport is their forte, but so if you've seen them on the street in Black Bloc, they are rather nimble in their own right. But yeah,
nimble. That's a great word. I don't hear enough of. I love that word. Deb wants to. Before you, by the way, if you want to share a link, Deb, feel free, because I know you want to.
I just dropped it in the chat.
Oh, cool. Really quickly, let me just hit a couple of these. Lord Pepsi says, "What if Ye stands with Palestinians?" Ben Shapiro, down thumb. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the super chat. Okay. Poetry Painter says, "What are your plans for after the stream?" Thank you for the super chat. By the way, I do have a plan. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I'm going to be on Comics Division's show tonight. So Comics Division, always a good time. He's always got great guests, and I think it's called Men Yelling at Parked Cars. That's going to be later tonight. And then just as an aside, a life thing, you guys, I'm so excited because my mother-in-law is coming into town, and after I'm finished with Comics Division thing, we're going to Round Top, Texas. Do you guys know what Round Top is?
I've heard of that.
I've heard of Round Rock, not Round Top.
Round Top is the best. It's like antiques vendors. It's Mikey, I can't unmute you. Oh, you unmute yourself when you want to. Okay. But if you live anywhere near Texas, if you're in Texas, you should totally visit in October. Round Top. They take over the whole, it's this little town. They take it over for a couple of weeks, and there's huge, like, fairground sized tents, and all the tents have hundreds of antiques vendors, artisans, like knitters, like handmade blankets, anything you can think of. Like I bought some handmade embroidered patches last time, that you sew on jean jackets and stuff. Like anything you can think of, you can find it there, like homemade jellies. And it's just, I don't get a plug for saying this. I just love Round Top, Texas. And I'm so excited. And my mother-in-law's never been, and she loves antiques. So we're going to have a good time. Anyway.
I love her. Tell her I say hi.
I will tell her hello. Sorry, that was a little, you just asked a great question that had nothing to do with this. So Deb.
I have a hot date after the stream.
Do you?
No.
I know you got a crush.
You didn't tell me about this, Mikey. Honestly, I'm very upset.
It's okay. We'll still have our babies.
Honestly, Siri just pops out again. And she's
just because I can't get into the country. Just because I can't get into the country, you cheat on me. So it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm still waiting for you to propose gay green card marriage to me.
Green card or rainbow card?
Yeah.
Is it shiny?
Sparkle card.
Sparkle card, yes.
Oh dear. Oh goodness.
Okay, Deb, I'm going to pull up this link that you sent me.
Okay.
So what is it that you wanted to talk about related to this?
This just chaps my hide. Okay, full disclosure, I did not support Trump in the first in 2016. I didn't support Clinton either. Okay, I voted for Johnson, but I did vote for Trump in 2020 because I felt like we had, it was existential threat type of thing, and there were things that Trump did that I did approve of, and ironically, one of them was putting the capital, or putting our embassy in Jerusalem and making that the recognized capital of Israel. So I thought that was a good decision, and I thought that some of the things that he even allowed his son-in-law, who I'm not a giant fan of, but that he allowed him to negotiate were pretty good as far as peace and stuff like that. And I'm Jewish. I'm not observant, but I'm of Jewish descent and background and all that. Okay. I'm a Zionist all day long. Hate me if you want, but I am. When he said this, though, it really pissed me off, because this is exactly the same logically in every way that in terms of argumentation as the people who tell Black people, you have to support me because you're Black. Black people should support this candidate because this candidate did nice things for Black people. Or, women should support Hillary because she has a vagina, or whatever. I mean, this is really not that different. Saying, well, the Jews should support.
Hold on. This is the stove that we're buying. It keeps.
Ooh, okay, now you're talking my language.
I thought this was the quiz section. I thought someone was going to go home with an oven.
I get right.
What was the oven?
I need to get ad blocker because it knows what I've been looking at, and it keeps showing me these ovens, which are beautiful.
Okay, Deb.
I don't think we should be discussing ovens and Jews in the same conversation. Almost okay. But anyway.
Okay, wait, Deb. Deb, tell people what it is, what comments that you're talking about.
Okay, so basically, Trump, when he's saying U.S. Jews have to get their act together before it's too late, as he touts work in Israel, he is saying that he's done, and he's said this many times before, he has done more for Jews, more for Israel than any previous president, and therefore, and I'm sitting there going, therefore what? Therefore what? You've also done the things that hurt people, many of whom are Jews, like, going on along with the lockdown, the initial lockdown, going along with the massive spending, going along with the vaccine and saying how awesome it was when we could possibly know that. There's plenty of things that he did that I didn't approve of, and I start getting really nitpicky about them now when he does this kind of crap, because nobody owes you by accident of birth their particular allegiance. Whether I'm a Zionist or not, just because I'm a Jew doesn't mean that your particular brand of did stuff for Jews or did stuff for Israel is what I would have wanted to have had done. And I can respect the fact that there are other Jews in America who don't agree with everything I think should have been done with Israel. Okay, like we're not the Borg. Jews are no more the Borg than Black people are. And it's just something that, and what I really don't like is there are people, of course, rushing to defend him. Well, he did do a lot of things for Jews. And I'm like, no, he did a lot to recognize Israel. He did a lot for the state of Israel. Now, while I might support a lot of what he did, maybe I support that for reasons other than my Jewishness.
Right.
Maybe my Jewishness has nothing to do with it. And maybe people who don't support it, who are Jewish, have good reasons why they don't support it. Who knows? The point is, you don't support things or oppose them, or support people or oppose them because of some identity marker. And this is like the wokest thing he's ever said. And I'm sorry, I just had to do a little rant on that because it pisses me off.
So to
Can
clarify,
you know what
it's
exactly
because
that he said? Because I remember there was something in it that sounded not great.
Yeah, he said basically Jews have to get their act together.
He said, former President Donald Trump on Sunday called on Jews in the U.S. to be, quote, more appreciative, end quote, of his administration's work regarding Israel. Trump, in a message on his Truth Social platform, said he had, quote, done more, end quote, for the Jewish state than any of his predecessors, claiming he was popular enough in Israel to serve as the nation's prime minister. Quote, no president has done more for Israel
started on that.
than I
Which
have.
is funny because, like, the far right would hate him for that.
It's just
like, they'll take that and be like, oh, he's in cahoots with the Jews.
U.S. Jews have to get their act together and appreciate what they have in Israel before it's too late. I would like to believe that the whole world should appreciate having a democratic, sovereign state in an otherwise really contentious area that has been a good ally to the United States most of the time. And I know there's debate on that, but the point is this idea that, like, I can't just snap my fingers and go to Israel. Even as a Jew, I'd have to like jump through some hoops. Okay. And so what is he saying? Because somebody's going to start persecuting Jews again, I'm going to need to leave. So that's why I should support Israel. Like, that's not why I support Israel. They're just, everything about this was so cringy and identitarian and like narcissistic. Appreciate me because I did stuff for you, little Jew, is really not that different than when people say to Black people, appreciate me because I'm the person who did stuff for Black people.
Well, as people are pointing out, it's pandering. Trinocula says, gross. I know. Yes, a lot of politicians anyway, pander. I'm trying to think of one who hasn't, and it's hard.
It's pandering at a time, though, when anti-Semitism is on the rise in a huge way in the United States. I got a note from a friend the other day in California, and I've been telling this story because I want to keep telling the story, and hopefully it'll sink in. Middle school in an upscale district. We're talking really wealthy district in California. And Black kid is walking in the hall. White Jewish kid is there. The Black kid Zeke Hiles the kid. Okay. Which is a very obvious affront. I mean, it'll be like showing up with a white hood or doing like a KKK thing to the Black kid. All right. Does this to the kid. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. The Jewish kid complains about it, and he's told that the person who did it is from an oppressed minority. Therefore, it's like, therefore what? Therefore it's okay. Therefore it's not a big deal. Therefore suck it up. Therefore what? And we already know that there've been a sharp rise on anti-Semitic attacks in New York City. I mean, Mikey, you can probably attest to this. The mayor doesn't do anything about it, even though they admit it can't be connected to any one thing. It's the only common denominator is the Jewishness of the victims. And so it's on the sharp rise. We see this every time there's economic downturns, every time there's political strife, the anti-Semitic attacks go up, the anti-Semitic rhetoric goes up. And so when you've got I
think that's true for all groups, don't you think?
I'm sorry?
I think during times of a special, like special divisiveness,
yes,
and times like the kind of time that we're in right now, you see all kinds of, because they're always talking about attacks against Asian people are going up. I truly believe that. Because what's happening is they're splitting us all apart. They're using race to divide us, and then these things go up.
It's just the one that seems to be still pretty much acceptable in terms of like, nobody, you don't see the media losing its shirt about, you know, attacks on Jews. Whereas if we even had the whole anti-Asian hate campaign, and I still think they could do more on that front, because it's still more acceptable to beat up the jewelry store owner who's Korean than for anybody black to, you know, like look askance at somebody who's black or somebody who's trans, and you know, it's all bad. But it is divide and conquer. I just don't expect politicians, even if they are asked. I know someone in the chat said every politician gets asked what they did for certain groups of people. Yes, and I expect the politicians who are not woke to say, I don't do things for groups. I don't do things for identity groups. I do what I think is right. I do what I think is the best policy for the United States of America and what's constitutionally within my purview. And that's what I do. And I like to think that the people who benefit from these policies would appreciate that I did it, but that's not why I did it. I didn't do it so they pat me on the back. I didn't do it so they could go, oh, thank you, Your Highness, or, you know, vote for me and go, we're so grateful. I did it because it was the right thing to do. It was the correct policy, and I made a judgment call, and that's what I did. And I would just so dearly love to see a politician actually say that, instead of going, I did this for you guys and you guys and you guys, and then, and what? And what? And what? What do you want? A medal? It's your freaking job to do things that you think are the right thing to do.
I just want to tell you, Deb, Aaron says, as a Jew, your joke was hilarious earlier.
Hilarious.
I'm just going to interrupt your righteous rant.
But
Sorry.
by the way, I'm half Jewish. My dad is Jewish. Like, I wish that all the things they say about Jews having all the money and controlling everything, I wish. Like, I'd only get half, but like,
Exactly.
don't you wish?
Yes.
I feel a little bit
Awesome.
differently. That like, I feel like there are specific issues that affect different groups of people. There's certain issues that impact African Americans or gay people or Jews. And I feel like there's a difference between sort of identity issues than identity politics. For me, I kind of split feelings about what he said, that on a personal level, it is frustrating that Jews overwhelmingly vote for Democrats when they're the one, like, these people are not their friends. I mean, it's leftist pride parades that are kicking Jewish people out and not letting them be there. It's on the left that there are people like Ilhan Omar. But, you know, I don't think the thing that he said that bothers me the most in that is you should be appreciative. And I think that's sort of emblematic of a bigger thing around Trump lately that's kind of turned me off from him a little bit, is that, you know, when he was running against Hillary, her slogan was, I'm with her. It was all about her. And Trump came in and said, I'm with you. And I feel like that's kind of turned around. I feel like in many ways, he's kind of become the thing that he ran against. And it's all about him and being appreciative to him. I don't think we should be appreciative to any politicians. Like you said, it's their job.
Amen. That's exactly, that really is the thing that bothers me sort of the most. But I especially didn't like that it was sort of singled out, like, because of this thing that you are, right? That because of that, you should be appreciative. And it's like, well, shouldn't I be more appreciative of the state of Israel, that it continues to exist? You know, like, in spite of everything, that even before you came along and did the things you did, it still persevered. It made it through the 6-Day War. It made it through the Yom Kippur War. It made it through, like, everyone presidents that hated it, like Obama. You know, should I be maybe a little more grateful to Israel if it's about my Jewishness? I would be appreciative of the American president for doing what's best for America. I understand what you're saying, Mikey, about there's issues that are like identity issues versus identity politics, but it's the framing. It was the framing. Like, if there were something happening in the United States specifically to Jews, like we talk about LGBT or whatever, you know, like gay issues. Let's leave the T out, but like the LGBT issues. Like, if there's something like gay marriage, okay,
yeah,
that's an identity issue, right? And when you're campaigning, you're talking about things like, you know, I support this or support that. You're talking about something that does impact a specific group of people in a very specific way. I didn't get the feeling that's what he's talking about.
No, and I think it just goes to show the failing of the Republican Party as a whole, because if they had any brains, they would be sending people out into every community, into the Jewish community, into the Black community, to all different parts of the country to talk to people and educate them on why they should vote Republican. Like, just everything about their messaging is all wrong.
So I see a couple of people who are upset in the chat because they really don't like, I guess, criticism of Trump. I'll just say none of what you're talking about bothers me, Deb. It doesn't. I mean, I just, to be honest, but we can disagree on that, and I can listen to why it's upsetting to you. And I guess just because I'm not, out of all the lists of things, and I'm not Jewish, so I'm not like personally like tied into like, why is he telling me I need to be appreciative or whatever. I'm just used to him being, he's a narcissist, and he's a politician, and he's going to pander, and he's going to talk about like, I've done this for this group, I've done this for Black people, I've done this for Jewish people, because that's unfortunately right now the world that we live in is dominated by woke ideology. And you see, even in the anti-woke groups, they do stuff where they're based on identity, and I understand why they're doing it. I understand why they're doing it based on identity, because they're trying to counteract that sort of like for example, woke tries to speak for gay people, Black people, women, Jewish people. And so it's sometimes useful for anti-woke to say, hey, we're all gay people against groomers, right? Like Mikey's and Gays Against Groomers, that's based on identity. I understand why it's useful for them to do that, because then when the woke try to say gay people believe this, they can say, no, look, there's a whole group of gay people that don't. I guess my point is, I kind of put his comments in that same, they're not exactly the same, but I kind of put them in that unfortunate result of living in a world so dominated by identity politics, is then you start to see people they just speak in that collectivist manner of like, hey, Jewish people, you should be this, I've done this for you. Black people, you should be appreciative, I've done this for you. Women, you should
that's, yeah, my I'm not butthurt because I'm Jewish and he like offended me. I'm more worried about in general, if as we're busy fighting against what I do believe is an existential threat to reason and the truth and all that, which is this kind of woke way of thinking and interacting with other people. And I say woke for lack of a better term, but it's really just a way of thinking in shorthand and lumping people in groups and continuing this divide and conquer kind of thing, that I don't want us to fall into that. It is contagious. Mm-hmm. And I think for his part, maybe it's a little bit of a defense of him, and it's probably he's caught the disease in the sense that everybody else is doing it, I'm going to do it too. I'm not saying it's conscious. It might be like subliminal, that he's looking for reasons to drum up support. And I can separate out the idea, like Mikey said, that American Jews, I do believe by and large act against their own best interests as Americans, in the sense that, just as I would say, many other Democrat voters do, regardless of their identity.
All of them.
Right. But when you take a minority group as small as Jews, American Jews, and see that similar to Black voters, they tend to vote as a block, and they tend to consistently vote for Democrats. I can relate to people who would say, yeah, but Deb, what if he's just appealing to that and saying, you guys, what the hell are you doing? Like, you keep voting against your own best interest because, as Mikey said, Ilhan Omar, all these other people. I get that. It's just the way he framed it and the way he put it sounded so much more like when the left speak than typical Trump gaffe. Does that make sense? Like, there are things he says, they're just inartful and, like rough. And I'm like, oh God, whatever. Okay. But this was new. They need to get their act together and appreciate me. Like Mikey said, it's not about the issue. It's not about you guys should think about yourselves, or you guys should think about these issues. You guys should, vote differently. It was more like he wanted personal appreciation. And I just don't think it's a good sales pitch, but I also thought it was very woke-ish the way he did it.
I think there's a couple of things also to remember as well outside the kind of woke categories with this, is the fact that Trump is presumed to be announcing he's running. So this is the typical politician's appeal to the polling groups, right? So this is a group that will be polled, approval ratings within the Jewish community. And so I think there's this weird Trumpian melding together between his ego, his lack of political kind of norms, that then also is melded together with knowing that he needs to get approval with different communities. But you've got the divide and conquer. I always say that we need to stop looking horizontally and look vertically, because that's where the problems are, higher up the totem pole, while we're all fighting amongst ourselves and everything. But I think that's also a big bit of it, is that this is a nod to he needs to see. I mean, I don't know what the polls are within that demographic, but he may be seeing some stuff that isn't making him too happy, and in Trumpian fashion lashing out with that. So that's another view.
I'm going to switch gears here because I want to cover, we've only got a little bit of time left, and I want to cover a couple of other subjects. This is just along the same line, since we're talking about Kanye. Oh my gosh, the stoves.
Here's her oven.
Hey, Deb, you're going to end up getting all of these.
For me.
Deb's going to get all these ads from Siri popping up. Siri's listening, and
don't wake her up. She's asleep now.
Okay.
Never asleep.
We're talking about Kanye. We're talking about financial punishment earlier. We were talking about Alex Jones and the $1 billion fine that they've levied against him, which is impossible to pay. So something else that happened recently, because of some of Kanye's comments online, we now see that a bank, JP Chase, Morgan Chase, has cut ties with Kanye. This has been in the news. They're saying they're not going to do business with him. I saw people like Blair White pointing out, look, JP Morgan Chase didn't cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein, a child pornographer, pedophile ring operator who worked with and was protected by some of those powerful people in the world. They didn't cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein, but they're cutting ties with this rapper, gosh darn it, because of some, incendiary opinions he gave. What is this, again, like thinking about Alex Jones as a canary in a coal mine? What does this mean for the future of banks and all of our payment processors and stuff? Like, where are we headed?
Well, I tend to think that the reason that we're not seeing the same level as him being cut out of this, unlike Epstein, is because if you think about the way that pressure is applied, the left is more likely to boycott and put pressure on, whereas with Epstein, the right are less likely to push back too much when it comes to those things. Not only that, but a lot of them probably it would be against a lot of wealthy people in the right's interest to cut ties with JP Morgan Chase. So I think that's it as well. And you also see it as well, not just with Kanye West, but with other people, where they'll say certain things online and social media will be monitored, and then suddenly their sponsorship deals are cut. And so it is worrying, and it brings it back to the grand thing of things. And one of the things that I have issues with is the situation with PayPal. And my go-to is, as someone like me that relies on PayPal, I mean, for example, my merch that I sell through Teespring, one of the only ways of me getting money out of that is PayPal, because they have a monopoly on the market. And so it's like, it's all very well saying cancel PayPal and everything. Like I dearly wish I could, but there's just no viable alternatives for a lot of this stuff, especially for me in the UK as well. When it comes to this stuff, things like parallel economy or whatever it is, I can't access that. So with this, it really does. It is worrying precedent, because again, just like with Alex Jones, if they can go for the big guy, then everything underneath is fair game.
Yeah,
also,
that's why
go buy Mr. Kieran White's merch, because it is beautiful, and I want that Thomas Sowell David Bowie shirt.
This is why this scares me, Kieran, along those lines, is because just like with Alex Jones, just like with Twitter censoring the president of the United States, Twitter kicking Trump off, Twitter and Facebook and YouTube banning Alex Jones. These kind of big canaries in the coal mine, they signal, it doesn't matter if you like Trump or not. It doesn't matter if you like Alex Jones or not, or Kanye or not. If these companies can censor people who are that big and that powerful and have that much influence, and if a bank can say, we don't care how big and powerful Kanye West is, we're going to quit working with him, then the little guy, like, we have no hope of being treated fairly. That's what it means to me, is like, screw
and the difference
you guys,
between
the little guys.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between what I would call hard censorship and soft censorship, right? So you've got the hard censorship, which is overt, or being, knocked off Twitter or things like that being overt, whereas what I would deem as soft censorship is where you've got algorithms doing things that you don't even notice. You'll never know a lot of that stuff. You'll have hints, but you'll never be able to, beyond a shadow of a doubt, prove it. And that's because then you can't take any kind of action against that. You can't take legal action because you can't prove that the algorithm has been changed to shut you up effectively.
Also,
we're
great
heading
job
into
disproving those anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, right? Like they just give validity to them.
the bank.
Yeah. Because these people are like, oh, you can't say anything about the Jews. They'll take your banking away. And, you know, we're like, oh, that's crazy. And then they do it. Not because it's a Jewish thing, but it's just insane.
It's like, don't fall into the stereotype, guys.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the other night. On Wednesday nights, I do my pop culture show with my friend Mystery Chris. And he was like, he tells this story that cracks me up, how whenever he goes to a buffet and if he's one of the only Black people there, if they have fried chicken on the buffet, even though he really wants to eat the chicken, he doesn't, because he doesn't want to fall into the stereotype.
I don't understand.
Oh no!
I
You
feel
gotta
like-
eat the chicken.
I know, that's what I told him. You gotta eat the chicken. He was
I
like,
feel like
no,
you're
I
not
guess I'll
human if you don't like fried chicken or watermelon.
I know, but it's because the stereotype gets in his head. I'm saying with the bank should have been like, oh, we can't eat the chicken. We can't cancel his banking. Like, that's the stereotype. Oh, man. Okay.
I mean, I keep wearing the side part, you know, in spite of the Karen stereotype. I mean, you know.
just lean into it. Lean into the stereotype.
I was inspired by Kieran for some tinted moisturizer.
Oh, you gotta love the Nivea tinted moisturizer. It is magic, absolute magic, especially with these big lights overhead. I don't look as dead.
Is that your sponsor? Are you sponsored by Nivea?
No, quick, cut that out. You'll end up getting that next to the stoves. You'll have tinted moisturizer.
At this point, that stove should pay me. Like, they've advertised it on my videos. I apologize, guys. I'm going to get an ad blocker. But I do. This is a good transition. I do want to air this ad, so bear with us. This is a 60-second thank you, and we'll be here on the other side of it. Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards. There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's Kenz, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you. Thank you. I feel like
I love them.
Do I put the funny organ music in the background because I think it's funny for an ad? I never see ads for churches, but I feel like I sit through ads for things all the time, like dildos, marijuana, vaping. Like, you can sit through a church ad even if you don't care about church, right?
I'm just going to say, I mean, you know me, I offer creative consultancy, so I'm going to give you some free tips here.
Okay.
I mean, it's great. It's great. We love it. We love the music. We love the message.
You don't love it. I can tell.
Keri, would I lie to you? I'm not lying to you. I love it. It's great. But there's just one thing missing.
What?
A stove in the background. Lean into the ads.
They're saving that for Temple.
Yeah. You just need subliminal messaging. Just buy stove. And then it just goes.
I
needs more stove. It's like cowbell.
Yeah. They just pile up in the background.
Oh, man. I was on Chrissy Mayer's show. We kind of jokingly did an ad for my church because I told her I had to come up with an ad. and she was doing one for, I think, some kind of cryptocurrency, and there was like this sexy sounding music in the background, and then I was like, she kind of ad-libbed one for the church. It was so funny. She was just like, do you need to confess your sins? And in the back there's like this sexy music, like, come on down to the church.
I was on her show, The Wet Spot. That's her show about like dating and sex. I was on it with like a panel of porn stars. You got to send them to church. Oh my God. I was like, for once, I am like the most innocent little dove in the room, which never happens.
Oh man.
Somebody says you need a stovepipe hat. That could be your next hat.
Stovepipe hat.
Yeah, you totally need like a little Abraham Lincoln thing going on. And that's Poetry Painter says that's the catchphrase of your show now. Needs some more stove. You just have like stove floating here and there.
Yeah.
I tell you that's the most horrible thing ever.
Meditate on the stove. It'll be like your new ASMR stove.
I tell you guys the most horrible thing ever. All the apartments in Florida have electric stoves.
Well, you know why?
Because they're old.
No, because
Why?
if you have a hurricane, you want gas lines everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense. Deb, with the
I'd rather
common
get blown
sense.
up than have like an electric stove.
Mikey,
I
have
mean, they
you
have gas
seen?
stoves in San Francisco with the earthquake, so you know, or in, not a lot, but in some places they do.
Mikey,
I
have
thought it
you
was 'cause
seen
they're
the
old and they
new?
fall on the stove.
Mikey, have you seen the new Netflix series, The Watcher?
No, it's on my. I'm gonna start watching it as soon as I
Okay.
finish this stuff I've been working on.
It's what's his name? It's a Ryan Murphy. It's like a horror thriller. I know. It's the creator of American Horror Story. Anyway, there's this one character who makes me think of you because they move into this big beautiful house and he's like yelling about how they have these beautiful marble countertops and he says, I'm Italian, I can't get red sauce on this, like I've got to cook. And so he really wants to rip out the marble countertops because he's Italian. I'm like,
They are very porous, so that is
Yeah.
true. They're porous and they absorb stains.
you can't have. I kind
That's
of
my. That's oh my God. All
You can
the
have a
places
marble
in
slab for
Florida.
pastry, like off in a corner, and like only use it for rolling out dough. It's great because it stays cold as a surface, but it's a terrible surface for all countertops because it will pick up every single stain. It's very
I've lived in New York my whole life, so like I'm used to having these tiny little kitchens, and all the kitchens in Florida are so beautiful. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
except they have electric stoves.
I know. I'm gonna try to like negotiate that in the lease.
Or just get a gas grill. Have an outdoor gas grill.
Oh my God, I want to go there today.
So a couple of chats. This is not a super chat. I just want to put it up. When you were calling yourself a Karen, Van Stripe said, Karen looking good.
Thank you.
Yes,
But
it is.
I have had people say that I wasn't going to watch your video because you look like a Karen, and then I'm glad I listened because you don't sound like a Karen, and I'm like, yay.
Poetry painter. Oh, first of all, Kevin didn't give a chat, but he gave a super chat of $50. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for supporting the program. If you guys like the channel and you want to support, I always forget to say this up top, but we have a locals and a Patreon and a subscribe star. So you can also do super chats, and I've really appreciated it, Kevin. Poetry painter, super chat, $10. Thanks, lady. She says, I'm going to need a beauty tip from all the panelists now. That's
Well,
so silly.
Kieran's going to get right on that, and he's going to publish his, his moisturizer tips.
Do you need the lights not to blow your face out? Nivea day cream, tinted moisturizer, perfect for all applications. There we go. You can pull the sponsor
There you
up.
go. There you go.
Trentanoin is mine. Get a prescription for it. It's like a thing you put on your face. I feel like I look so Botoxed, and I love it.
Wait, what is it?
It's called Trentanoin, I think. It's
What
like
is
a
it?
thing you put on your face.
Okay.
Oh, no.
And it makes your skin peel off. And then when it does, I feel like
Oh,
I
great.
look so plastic and Botoxy.
I
I'm
get
so
all my
happy.
tips. I get all my tips from this lady on YouTube who has this fabulous channel, and it is called, I think it's called Fabulous 50s or something, because I'm old. And but she's great. I think she's Australian, And she has some of the best like workouts for people who are old like me, where it's like, 30 minutes. But what's so motivating is there's like a little counter that takes down like 1 minute at a time. So she does like an exercise for like a minute and you see it tick down. Like anyone can do anything for a minute, right? So you're like, I can do this for a minute. Oh, and there's another minute behind it. And then there's another minute. But by the time you're done, you did 30 of these little individual minutes. So it's much easier than the ones where it's like 30 minutes stretching ahead of you. And she has some great tips in there about like makeup and skin and all that kind of stuff. I found out a week ago I was doing my eye makeup all wrong. And she said how to, because I'm old. So like when you get past a certain age, there are things that you used to do that were like totally fine when you were in your 30s, but you don't do that anymore. You get to be older and you keep doing them and you look not good.
I never learned how to do it for any age group, so I should probably just skip straight to the 50s.
Well, I mean, it is pretty dang tasteful. I'll find her link, but she's great. It's Fabulous and then 50s, Fabulous 50s. And I think her name is like Shelly or Sherry or something like that. But I just love her. She's got her Australian accent and she does these great, videos and they're fantastic. So I'm going to plug for somebody else's channel on your channel. Sorry.
So go right ahead.
My tips are subscribe to Fabulous 50s and get all the tips that I got.
I watched the ones where they teach you got to do your chin exercises so you don't get the howdy doodies.
Got it. I was like, it's a lost cause.
No.
My tip is just drink more water. Water cures everything. And I'm saying that out loud so that I remember to drink more water.
It's true.
I got to show it. I'm a cokehead.
Yep.
But yeah. Oh,
this is my daily exercise. It's just
coffee.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot. And, I'll do a little countdown timer. Make sure I'm drinking for the right amount of time.
Lord Pepsi, thanks for the super chat. Says, I love this self-aware humor. We're truly lost without it. I agree.
Well, not the truth. Maybe
that's
bugging me about
underrated.
I'm just over it. I'm just over people who don't have that, Keri.
Oh, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. It keeps you sane and also helps you not take things too seriously.
As I always said,
humility in the world.
If you don't laugh at yourself, someone else will do it for you.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But let's laugh at someone else now.
Oh yes, please. Who's the lucky victim? Who's the lucky victim? Oh my God.
So, Dylan, I think maybe you might have a few things to say about this next subject. Dylan Mulvaney, Harlow, what do you have?
Hold on, I just need to get my tampons. Here they are. I'm a sponsor for Tampax, and I can put them in my vaginex.
Oh my God.
That's not how you open them.
They have a little thing.
Images of women walking into things.
Are you implying that I'm not ladylike?
I think that's the most manly thing Dylan could do.
We need to explain who Dylan Mulvaney is. I think there are people in the audience who don't know who Dylan is.
A beautiful woman.
That same speech. I am a little girl.
Okay, for those who don't know, Dylan Mulvaney is an influencer, I guess you would say, someone who has a very popular online presence talking about documenting his days as a girl. He identifies not just as a woman, but as a girl, a little girl. He's an adult male.
He's a Broadway star whose career tanked, and he decided to grift the world on his new ersatz identity.
Yeah.
You just haven't seen me in the music they.
You know what's really funny? What's really funny is I was very curious. Sometimes I go, I shouldn't be admitting this, but sometimes I go on weird tangents online. I was a bit bored and I was like, is there any kind of like background? Because I wasn't aware, apart from Mikey's interpretation, I wasn't aware of who Dylan was. So I was like, let me see if I can find any background of like voila transformation. pre the tinted moisturizer days.
Did you find The Price is Right?
What's that?
The Price is Right.
The Price is Right.
That's what you found?
No, even better. So I found their now locked Twitter account. And so, which was obviously under the name Dylan Mulvaney. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have a bit of fun with this. So I pumped it into Wayback Machine. And there's a tweet going back, I think it's like 2020 or something. And the tweet just reads, do you ever get I'm paraphrasing, but it was, do you ever get the feeling that you're either going to be really famous and well known for something, or you're just going to, I forget what it was, but basically it was after they left the showbiz kind of stuff. So it obviously predated this. Mikey, you look beautiful. But you're now single because I'm dumping you.
The order for the babies is canceled.
Babies.
Wait, so what did the tweet say?
It was something along the lines of, do you ever get the feeling that you're either going to be really famous and well known, or you're just going to be forgotten? And it was it was just before the time I think they started to go Transformers on the whole gender spectrum.
Transformers.
Yeah.
Well, we have a clip for anyone who's not familiar. Dylan Mulvaney is someone who you should definitely check out Mike Harlow's hilarious impersonations of him on Mike's channel. I had to actually go and watch a lot of Dylan's videos after yours to see how much of it was satire and how much were real quotes. He does stuff with tampons. He does stuff like it's almost we're to the point where it's getting harder to do satire because it's so close to reality. And the closer reality is to satire, the harder it is to tell things apart. Like we're in such a surreal time that satire becomes, it's just harder to do. It requires
when the
more
Babylon
skill.
Bee
Yes.
is more realistic than the actual news, you have a problem.
Yes,
And
you
there have
have a
been
problem.
many times in the last month that I've read a headline and I had to check, and it was the Babylon Bee, but I was like, that was totally plausible what they just wrote.
Totally
at this point.
Dion is asking, is it Jeffrey March? No, it's two different people. Mikey does impersonations of both of them. They're both huge with kids. A lot of adult women show these videos, these Dylan Mulvaney videos to their kids. And the Jeffrey Marsh videos as well. Dylan is the one who documents his, like day 39 as a girl. And he seriously does videos with tampons. He calls what does he call his privates, Mikey?
A Barbie one. It's so special.
A Barbie wand. He really calls it that. Okay, so Ulta Beauty.
Jeffrey Marsh is the one who just wants your kids.
Ulta Beauty just got a lot of pushback for releasing this video. Now, women, I think, will be very familiar with this brand. If you are just listening, I'll read it to you. Ulta Beauty's tweet says, trans girls can do it all. And in between each word, they have that stupid, annoying clapping hand. Trans girls can do it all.
You say it like this, that makes it true.
I always interpret it as a sea lion impression. That's how I'm kind of like,
Then it says, tune into the latest episode of The Beauty Of, where host David Lopez sits down with guest Dylan Mulvaney to chat about all things girlhood. And they have a heart, and then you can watch it. So we're gonna watch this clip. It's 15 seconds. Here we go.
Oh.
Now I know I can find love. I know I can still be a performer. I know that I can have a family. I want to be a mom one day, and I absolutely can. And that's why the narrative still has a long way to go, because when I was grieving boy Dylan, I didn't know those things were even accessible to me. Now I know I can find love.
Okay.
Can I just point out
You cannot be a mom. Stop it. Just stop it. You can be a parent if you want to be a parent. I mean, okay, I wish you wouldn't, but if you can be a parent, go ahead. But you cannot be a mom.
I know. I'm too young to be a mom.
People say, but Deb, there are moms
just
who
a
don't
girl.
There are moms who don't give birth, Deb. There are moms who don't give birth. I'm like, That's true. But a mom is a mom, a dad is a dad. Whatever this is, I don't know, but it's not a mom.
Well, they definitely don't give birth through their Barbie wand.
No, but I mean, people adopt. But the point is, okay,
We
so
do it through our princess
let's say
pouch.
he's a mom. Let's say he becomes a parent to a boy child. Okay, there's a way that a biological female mothers a biological male or parents a biological male that is different from the way a biological male parents a biological male. You know, is this, even though this person now claims to be a girl, if they decide to raise a boy, a biological boy, are they going to share anything about what it was like when they were boy Dylan? Are they going to be like, I wouldn't know what that's like to have a wet dream. I just don't know. It's like a complete mystery to me. Or is it going to actually have that discussion? Because you see, a mom wouldn't know how to have that conversation, would probably refer to the dad. Right? Because they've never been through that. Whereas if a girl's getting her period or a girl's having, feels about something else and the mother's been there, I've been a female, I've been physically female, psychologically, I've been in your shoes a little bit. So let me have a little chat with you as your parent. Let's talk about it. Let me share my experiences, whatever. It's a little more relatable than, well, when I started dressing up as what you are. I mean, what?
Yeah. My princess pouch and my Barbie wand. Like, what do you
You
have
can be
to...
a parent. I'm not saying you can't parent a child. Just stop saying you're going to be a mom. Words
I want to
mean
show you,
things.
I want to show some of the comments because this is encouraging. I love it when the comments go the other way and they're not woke. I thought it was going to be...
It's turning on them.
It's turning.
Tides are turning.
It is turning. This is encouraging. So you can see some of the top comments here from people like Zuby and Clifton Duncan, Melanie Haber, but they're like, hey, men can't be women no matter how much we pretend. That's from Zuby. Clifton Duncan says, when is your line of beard oils coming out?
Seriously.
Melanie Haber, this isn't girlhood. Girls are female children. This is an adult male. There's nothing wrong with males wearing makeup. Look at David Bowie, Boy George, Prince. You can promote your products to males. There's a market without alienating females. Wouldn't that be more inclusive? And they actually limited their replies because they got inundated with negative comments and feedback. And they just opened up their replies again. Last I saw, they were open again, but they had limited them and tried to hide from it. And lots of people were saying, I'm never coming back. I've unsubscribed from your email list. Like, a lot of women were saying, I'm tired of this. This is woman face.
It
like
is
blackface.
woman's face. And Estee Lauder pulled the same thing where they had a trans female scientist that works for Lauder Brands. And Lauder Brands, for those who don't know, are at least 7 or 8 different brands. So it's not just Estee Lauder. It's Origins, Tom Ford, MAC, all kinds of different brands.
Yeah.
So, and so what I love about being a woman, this person says in a video, it's like, you're not a woman. Didn't even put the trans in front of it. And, to the point about you can sell the products to men, Il Maquillage, and I'm a customer of theirs. They have been doing that for as long as I've been a customer. They have what are called, they have talent. So you can shop talent or you can shop like products directly. And they go out to Instagram and they find makeup influencers, people who put together looks, right? And they have a mix of men and women. And there are men who wear makeup. There have been men who wear makeup since forever. Okay. Mm. And so there are men who are makeup artists who have like looks that they do for their faces. And they're still very obviously men. In other words, they're not wearing woman face. They don't have like exaggerated long hair and all this kind of stuff.
But that's the difference. That's the difference with makeup, right? Being a photographer, like I wear this for anyone on TV you see, I'm wearing this because of the lighting. I don't go out with like my big eyeshadow, big wig.
And some of the guys are doing the whole thing. They're doing the lashes, they're doing eyeshadow, they're doing lips and everything, but they're still very obviously men. In other words, they're just men who like to wear makeup. And like you pointed out, David Bowie and stuff like that. And I've shopped in many of the stores before where even the people waiting on me in the store were male, but wearing a full face of makeup. It never bothered me. Okay. I was like, yeah, go for it. Have fun. It's like makeup is fun. Play.
Nobody
right?
cares.
And especially when they're super talented and they do these great looks, like I actually appreciate it. But they're not pretending to be a woman. They're not saying I have to dress up as this exaggerated, regressive stereotype of a female in order to use these products. No, you don't. Like you said, sell the products to whomever you want to sell them to. Just don't pretend they're women.
And their
Right.
stock is tanking. Watch what it's going to be after this too. It was already tanking, and it's going to be even worse now. I'll bet you.
But this is the thing with this kind of stunt, right? It's hilarious because they have to pander, because if they don't, they get completely railroaded. But they're not going to be rewarded by the, and I guess I'm using lazy generalizations here, but they're not going to be rewarded by the left for pulling this stunt. In fact, they won't get anything. If anything, it'll be even more scrutiny, because for the left, it's never good enough. But they'll get penalized by the right because of this stunt. Whereas if they'd done the opposite and they were like, no, you know, this is our women's products and exclusively for women, right? You know, the left will be all over that and boycott it and everything like this. So they have to play this game, and no one's really a winner.
Also, by the way, I should mention, Dylan Mulvaney wants you jailed if you misgender
That's correct.
him.
I saw that.
He made a video the other day saying like to call him a man should be illegal.
Should be illegal to call him he.
Well, I've called him a lot worse, but I guess
Yeah,
if
go
he's going
for
to
it.
put me
Throw
in
me
jail.
in jail. See how that works.
you?
I just I wanted to bring up, so before there was Dylan Mulvaney, there was Stan. I don't know if you guys remember Stan.
Stan, like
I do feel
Yes. Oh, I remember this.
must reflect such a divergence of interest within its power base.
Agreed. Francis? Yeah, I think Judy's point of view is very valid, Rach. Provided the movement never forgets that it is the unalienable right of every man or woman to rid himself or herself. Agreed. Thank you, brother. Or sister. Where was I? I think you finished. Oh, right. Furthermore, it is the birthright of every man or woman. Why don't you shut up about women, Stan? You're putting us off. Women have a perfect right to play a part in our movement, Reg. Why are you always on about women, Stan? I want to be one. What? I want to be a woman. From now on, I want you all to call me Loretta. What? It's my right as a man.
Well, why do you want to be Loretta, Stan?
I want to have babies. You want to have babies? It's every man's right to have babies if he wants them. But you can't have babies. Don't you oppress me. I'm not oppressing you, Stan. You haven't got a womb. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep it in a box?
That's what I'd like to ask Dylan Mulvaney when he's like, I can be a woman. I can have babies.
You know, you mentioned how it's never good enough for them. There was a piece on the 13th, or like earlier in the week, from the Boston Globe, how the language of social justice is used to protect the status quo. They're already saying there's a concept known as elite capture explains why diversity pledges from political leaders, colleges, and corporations are often so hollow. So they're already saying they're not Sovieting hard enough. That's what James Lindsay said. He said they see what they're doing. They see that they're pandering. And so the people who really want this stuff for real are going to turn on Ulta, and they're not going to get any reward. They're going to be told, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good enough that you gave Dylan Mulvaney that platform. It's not good enough that you did this. And, you need to, like, I don't know what they want to have it, like, bar people like us from shopping there. That probably would be what they want.
Yeah.
But
the revolution's never done.
It's going to get worse. And these companies are going to realize very quickly that you can't keep feeding the alligator hoping it's going to eat you last. You're going to run out of food and you're going to be the only food left. So don't feed the alligator. Maybe put the alligator in some fritters.
Ooh, alligator is delicious, by the way.
It is. That's what I said. You need to
like
alligator nuggets, alligator bags.
Spoken like a true Floridian.
I had it in New Orleans. It was so good.
But now you're moving to the land of alligators. I want to show one more thing. This is so that guy who was in the video with Dylan Mulvaney, the Ulta Beauty video. This is a guy.
I don't even know anymore.
David Lopez. And I just wanted to highlight this tweet because I think it's so
Isn't she beautiful?
It's so freaking creepy though. Look at what he says. He says, you walk into Spanish class and I'm your teacher. What do you do?
Homeschool.
Is this a trick question? I leave.
Homeschool.
Yeah, homeschool.
Drop out.
But I mean, does he not understand there's something weird about coming up with a hypothetical situation that involves like like you teaching children and trying to look all seductive in your beard and lady makeup and your long. I mean, it's just the juxtaposing those two things. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
It's the
sexy and
lingerie.
sultry.
There's just
Yeah.
too much. Now, if you said like you walk in the way he was looking during the interview, if you were to go back to that picture and show that, you walk into Spanish class and this is what you see when you do. It's like, well, it's not
Okay.
going to be as automatic. I'm not thrilled, but this homeschool, walk out. That's
Homeschool.
no. And it's
Right.
not so much because he's wearing makeup. It's the lingerie. It's the sexy pose.
Yes.
It's that.
It's the seduction. It's like,
That's it.
I'm seducing my hypothetical students. Like, what?
Yep.
Well, and it's the talking about kids. I think this really shows the difference between gay people and queers, as they call them, or LGBTQXYZ LMNOPs. Because my entire gay life before this was a thing, it would be unheard of to go to a bar or be around a group of gay people and they're talking about kids. And now it seems like it's the first thought on their minds, whether it's people like this or Jeffrey Marsh or whoever. It's this fixation on children that's creepy.
It is creepy.
I think it's too distinct. There are people who are gay who are just like, I am gay. It's a non-issue, whatever. And then I think you have the people who, as you say, are queer, Mikey, who are doing all this, talking about kids, whatever. And they're lumping themselves into, LGB, and they're adding the T and they're adding the Q and they're adding the IA and they're adding the P pretty soon, I'm sure. And it's not fair. They're piggybacking, excuse the expression, but they're right onto this movement. I can't help myself today.
You're on fire.
So they don't belong in that movement. They're not part of the same movement, but they're borrowing legitimacy. They're hijacking legitimacy. And that's why I love Gays Against Groomers, because it's like, no, I like the fact that you have people, and you might say, well, Deb, you're a hypocrite. You just said you don't like all this identity politics, but this is issues, right? And as you point out, this is an issue. Protection of children is an issue. Gay rights are an issue. Okay. And so what they're trying to do is really wrong. And I don't think it's the same people. And in other words, when you say if you were sitting around talking to people and it didn't used to be talking about kids and now they're talking about kids, it's not the same people. It's fundamentally different people who just stuck onto the group.
Can you, Mikey, can you tell us, speaking of Gays Against Groomers, which Deb just mentioned, can you tell us a little bit about Gays Against Groomers? I found myself in conversation with people this past week in a Facebook group, a local group, where there's a lot of these like soccer mom, wine mom kind of social justice people who've just gotten into it. Yeah. And they're in there speaking on behalf of gay people. They're insulting any of the parents who oppose sexually explicit material in the classroom, like the book Genderqueer. They're calling them all bigots and how they don't like gay people. It's like, dude, have you never heard of Gays Against Groomers? You will. You better go and look them up because it won't be the last time you hear about them. Can you tell us, for those people who have no idea what it is, what's Gays Against Groomers?
Well, it is basically a group of, it's not only gay people, we have transgender people also, and in addition to a spin-off group, Trans Against Groomers, but we have all LGBT people in the group who are sick of the sexualization of children, the indoctrination of children, the cult of gender ideology that's encroaching upon everyone, but particularly kids. And I think the reason that it's important is because the way that this has been able to take root and sort of gain control of so many different institutions that they've captured is because the vast majority of people aren't homophobic. The vast majority of people are on the side of gay people or whatever, LGBT stuff they want to call it. So I think, if we were to just totally divorce gender ideology and the things happening with kids from LGBT people and gay rights and all that, then they would just be a bunch of freaks who want to mutilate and brainwash kids. So I think that's why it's particularly important for us to stand forward and say, this is wrong. This is going to stop. This is not going to continue. because it's being done in our name, but it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with us. I mean, it is largely kids who would grow up to be gay that are being targeted. And not only them, it targets young girls, it targets kids with autism, are vastly overrepresented in the kids who are being transitioned.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I think it really is, it is on us to speak up against this, because it is horrific what's happening.
Gay and trans people are being used. I mean, that's what I saw
Totally.
happening in this local group, is all these these straight parents, and they all identify, right? Like cis parent of blah, blah, all these straight wine mom, new to social justice parents who are in there using gays and lesbians and trans people to defend giving sexually explicit material to kids. And I'm like, you can't use
It's a cop
you can't
out.
use gay and lesbian and trans people in that way, and I mean, you can use it, but don't expect not to be called on it. Like,
Well,
it's
and then they would be the
infuriating.
first ones to want to shut us up when we don't agree with them.
Yeah.
A lot of
Exactly.
these people, especially with gay men, they love gay men as long as they can put you in a dress and cut off your
Or as long as you'll play the part, as long as you'll be the clown, as long as you'll be the sexually promiscuous, whatever. I mean, that for so long, gay people have been trying to get across to the rest of America, let's just say in America, that because you're gay doesn't automatically make you promiscuous, or doesn't automatically make you, a fetishist or whatever. And even though, I was talking to Dennis Kavanaugh the other day, and he said, statistically speaking, gay men are more likely to engage in risky behavior. That's just a statistical fact. That's not the same thing as saying they're groomers or they're sexual predators, whatever. And for so long in the past, that was the stereotype. And so, you finally get past that. And now you get people saying, no, I do want to be in the bathroom with your kids. Oh, I do want to. And you need to let me because gay people. And it's like, no. You don't get to do that. And so I think it's really cynical and creepy. And I'm straight, but I'm going to push back because there are people in my life who I love and care about who are on the receiving end of a lot of hate. I think people who are lesbian and gay get a disproportionate amount of the abuse from the trans rights activists. They're not likely to really come after me, for example. Well, women, yes. As far as me going in private spaces, but when you go to a protest, when you go to a protest, or you hear, like you're not, people say like, why won't the lesbian be with the trans female? It's like, because you're a man. That's why. And it's like, no, I'm a woman. And they get a ton of hate in that regard. Now, a man who's transitioning to be female is not necessarily going to say that I would want to be with them. It's not the same thing. And they're doing it to our kids now. And they're sucking our kids in, and they're telling our kids, if you want to be a nice person, if you want to be an accepting person, and most kids want to be nice and love people. And they're saying in order to do that, you have to tolerate, boys in your locker room, boys in your bathroom.
They're getting their moms. Yeah. They're getting these low information. What would you call, like, they may not have a low IQ. They may have a high IQ, but they don't think deeply. They're getting these kind of like keeping up with the Joneses. And in every society, this is human nature. Most people run with the tribe. Most people run with the herd. And the herd right now is all about this new ideology and belief system. That's how we show we're a good person. We're supportive. We're allies. We speak for gay and lesbian and trans people. We do, that's how they're hooking them. How else do you get parents, moms? How do you get moms to defend giving sexually explicit material to children? It's crazy.
And imagine being the child of one of those moms who is not comfortable with it, because a lot of kids are not comfortable with sexually explicit material just cause, like, even if it's about straight people, like they're just not comfortable with that material. But imagine mom who is doing her virtue signal saying, oh, honey, I'm going to get you this book. And I want you to read this book. And I'm okay with it. And I think it's great. And now you've got to push back against your mom telling you should consume this stuff when you're uncomfortable with it. Imagine being that kid.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say that, with a little bit of personal experience, because growing up in the 70s, before my mom left, she was she cheated. She was like, it was known in the town that she was that kind of person. And she used to bring me with her. Not that I was in the room, but even as a little kid, I knew what was going on. And then would say, don't tell. So like I knew that bad things were going on in the next room. I knew that, you know, my mom was doing things that were grown-up things I wasn't supposed to know about. But then she would just be inappropriate and talk about them with, you know, a friend of hers, like in front of me and stuff. And like, oh, this guy, whatever. Meanwhile, there's my dad. And as a kid, when you're exposed to something you're not supposed to be exposed to, and the parents are very glib about it or act like this is the real world and you need to get used to it. But I had that in the 70s. I had a mom who thought she was so free love and so, you know, like this is great and everybody should be totally into this.
They're parentifying you at a young age.
Yeah. And so I'm not, you know, I bet there are kids today who are having that same exact experience. And because they're being dragged to Pride where there's fetish on display. Or they're being, you know, so, hey, go on the pole, do the little pole thing, my child. Let's go to the drag show. And I'm sure there are kids who are not comfortable with it, but they probably don't dare. They probably don't dare say anything. Because I know I didn't dare say anything. Because you look at the adults and you're like, well, they're okay with it. I don't feel okay with it, though. Because you're kind of hardwired as a kid to be uncomfortable with things like that.
Of course.
You're not, you have a level of innocence that you're not supposed to be blasé about things like that. People today seem to act like, oh no, that's just a social construct. No, it's not. No, it's not. Children instinctively know that there's like body boundaries. Yeah. And I think when they talk about empathy and compassion, the group of people not getting empathy and compassion are the children. I don't hear anybody, with the exception of, you know, Gays Against Groomers and some of the groups that are out there fighting this. I don't hear all these proponents of it saying, what if we're wrong and the kids are feeling violated? What if in our zeal to be accepted and be free and do all these things, doing it in front of kids is its own form of abuse?
Yeah.
And let me tell you, once these kids get a little bit older and realize they aren't trans and their life is ruined, you'll see the empathy and the love and hope and compassion that they get from these same people. Because I've had them come at me time and time and time again. Yep. And when I ask them what happens when that child is mutilated or put on hormones and then they regret it or they're not trans, they go, oh, well, choices have consequences. That's literally what they say. So that's the amount of empathy and love that they get afterwards. It's they wash their hands of it once they ruin these kids' lives. Yep. And that's why, like what you guys said, though, that a lot of it, it's not only coming from the schools. It's not only coming from the state. It's not only coming from corporations and the media. It's coming from inside. The call is coming from inside the house. So it's a very difficult problem to be able to just legislate away. I support any legislation for it, but unfortunately, it has to just be one that's done through education and culture and by everyone speaking up, because if there were ever a hill to die on, it is this one.
Yeah,
right.
Pyrotomsky says that's already happening. The detransitioners are getting constant hate. They are. They're completely thrown out, disavowed by...
They're being suspended on Twitter for telling their own stories, for telling their own life experience. So much for lived experience, so much for speaking your truth. And it has to be in one of the prescribed narratives. And I wish, if there's one thing I would wish for, you know, going into a new year, we're coming up on the end of the year, right? Holiday season, everything. One thing I wish for 2023 is that when you hear somebody declare that there's a problem and say to you like, well, we have to protect trans kids, or we have to protect trans people, or people get hurt, or they make any statement of something is bad. I would love it if everybody just turn and say, therefore what? Right? Because what we hear so much is something must be done. And then somebody conveniently comes in with, this is something. And then we go, we must do that. No, we must. No, that's not how we do it. If there really were any validity, which there isn't, to this supposed statistic of trans identifying kids are more likely to kill themselves, whatever, which is, by the way, a made up statistic. But let's say it was true. It still does not, let's give them their argument. It still does not make this the solution. Mm-hmm. And we just have to, as people in pursuit of truth, people who want to live with honesty and reason, we have to just, rather than getting into a whole big debate, put the onus back on them. And they make this statement to say, therefore what? Therefore what? They say, well, we need to do something.
Yeah. They constantly lean on the ends justify the means. They don't want you to look at the means too closely. All they do is talk about the ends. the ends that they
Wouldn't you
put
guys love
forward,
to live in
which
a
is like,
country?
well, just quickly, the ends
Yeah.
that they put forward, which is this whole like false narrative of you're going to have a dead kid if you don't do the means. If you don't do our means, you're going to have the ends of like suicide. So we
Right.
need to do these means without looking too closely at what they are.
Wouldn't
sorry,
you guys
I
love
mean,
to eradicate homelessness, drug addiction, pick a poison, right? Wouldn't you love to eradicate it? Wouldn't it be great? I think nobody out there would say, oh no, that'd be a terrible idea. Let's keep the homeless problem. Okay. Well, George Bernard Shaw would have said that the solution is to kill them. They're not contributing to society. They should come before a little panel of experts to decide that they haven't been able to justify their existence. And so therefore we should kill them. And he was dead serious. He was dead serious. He loved Hitler, knew Hitler was going to kill people. He just got pissed off that he killed the wrong people. He didn't like you killing socialists and stuff, communists, whatever. But he knew he was going to kill people. It was fine with it. They're going to be unproductive, the ones we don't want around. There, we solved the problem. So yes, it matters what the solution is. Just having a good intention and wanting to solve a problem,
Yes.
you could be creating a much bigger problem. And in the
Yes.
end, if you are violating rights, if you are violating the individual, and especially if that individual is a minor child, I don't care how wonderful your solution would be. I don't care if the heavens would open and everything would be bliss. It's bad. It's wrong. Don't do it.
The means are bad. We learned this during the COVID policy the past 2 years. It's like,
Yep.
Your glorious supposed ends don't justify immoral, unethical, tyrannical means.
I think as well as what I've been concerned about, especially with the Gays Against Groomers stuff, is the fact that the gay community are almost, because again, everybody, whether you're left or right or whatever, up, down, left, right, whatever, right? There is this, as I always say, I don't think individuality is the natural state, right? It requires work. It requires breaking out of that primal inclination to sort of find your tribe. And so with that, you have people that look at things in a binary, and not the gender stuff, but like in terms of like the choices. And so when you see these people that do heinous stuff, but they so happen to identify as trans or gay, therefore all trans people or all gay people are this. And my fear is that we're going to go back to a state where gay people and trans people are going to be absolutely demonized in that same way. And so, and part of me does wonder whether I think in a way that's part of the plan, because if they become, if they go back in all the gains the community have made back to this really oppressed class, well, they've got no option but to join the struggle again. And so they get absorbed back in. And I guess as well, in terms of the parents stuff and the mums and stuff, I do wonder whether, from a psychological aspect, whether, the kind of proclivity to agreeableness, right? And the idea that they are more likely to kind of agree and not push back in the same way. And if these parents are pedestrian to a lot of these issues, busy, they've got loads of different things.
Yeah.
And there might be something where it's like they don't know what's going on. We're very privileged with ourselves. We're very on top of all of these topics. Most people know less than 10% of the stuff we know. And so when they think about it, there might be something in their brain that goes, oh, well, it's just a phase like I had when I was a kid. So they lean into it because they kind of don't want their kid to feel left out. They get into societal pressures where it's like, oh, it's fine, do this, do that. And I think that there is that aspect to it. But I guess I will just round off by saying that, I've traveled a lot around the world, and I've spoken to real communists in China, and not in China, sorry, forgive me, in other parts of Asia, but some that have been from China, and even they don't get a lot of this gender stuff. When I talk to them about their sex education programs within the school, it's very conservative still. It's more conservative than in the West. I had a friend that's kind of old school Antifa from Europe, right? Old black bloc style. And she would describe herself as an anarcho-syndicalist. Even she says women are women. So, you know, and this is the thing. So this new hybridized movement we've got it has its roots in a lot of stuff, but even the old guard don't recognize this lunacy.
Mhm.
So it's really odd.
Yeah. It's such a departure from, if you're talking to people who escape communist countries in Asia, it's like, this is a kind of Marxism, but it's not based around class. That's where I think some people lose the plot, because it's based around identity.
Sure.
And so this whole the gender part of it is just one of the different identity groups that it's about, you know.
I mean, these are people that are still there with family in the communist parties that are representative countries, and it's even there nowadays. It's just a completely different ballgame. They're looking at the West, going, "What the hell?" But yeah, you're quite right. I mean, that's the whole point of neo-Marxism, right? It's to find that tool that can destroy the car, and you know, using any tool possible, hoping they strike lucky. Whether it race, gender, that's what critical theory is. It's a toolbox.
They love
one
this
of the
toolbox.
Oh
They
yeah.
love this one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there's no peak to it.
Oh no.
It just, like you said earlier, Kieran, the revolution's never over.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to keep going, like right off the cliff until the bodies are piled high. Until the only way it ends is people have to consistently say no.
Yeah.
And ideally, you say no while you can still say no, which is now. You know, you can still say no. You still have a means of defending yourself. You don't tolerate it all the way to where you're like, uh-oh.
Well, I
how'd we
guess
get here.
I guess the best analogy would be is, Deb, you give me your car and you say this. I know there's something wrong with it. So you give it to me. I put it in the garage, and I'm like, okay, you know, pay me a weekly fee, and I'll work on it until we've got it right. Well, I'm incentivized to keep tinkering around with this and going, oh yeah, Deb, yeah, your car will be done maybe next week. I found another problem with it. And you're like, oh, but okay, that's fine. And that's what we're doing at the moment. What people need to be is go, no, I know what the problem is. The window wiper wasn't working. Right? And that's for me to go, oh, I've been caught out. I just need to focus on the window wiper. Right? Not to perpetuate and constantly keep going, if you checked your tires recently, they're going a bit bald. I
like this analogy because my husband had a car that was like this forever. The guy it was there for months and months and months. He put so much money. I was like, you got to quit putting money into it because there's always something new.
And if you follow the analogy off, you drive it out of the garage and it's so completely messed up after I've been tinkering with it, it's going to drive off a cliff.
Yeah.
The brakes, I've screwed the brakes and we're going downhill off the cliff.
I just want to hear you say garage in your British way again.
Well, you notice how I tried to, like, my brain kind of split halfway and I kind of done a mid-Atlantic, garage where it's actually garage here.
Garage. You said garage or something?
Garage, darling. Let me take your car to the garage.
People
we have a whole, you have like a military industrial complex. We have a like activism industrial complex where these people
and an alphabet complex,
and they just keep having to justify their own existence by having new things to bitch about.
Well, I will just touch on that very quickly. And this friend of mine that was old school Antifa Black Bloc. And this really stuck with me. And this isn't any shade of people that call themselves activists, but in a very anal way of being very precise with language, I hate the whole idea of activists.
So do I.
Because the thing is, as they explained to me, with activism, you need to be loyal to the mission, right? And you can't allow any things that come in that challenges that. And I think that's why advocacy is bad. I mean, I understand the difference between activism and advocacy. Advocacy is traditionally, I'm an advocate for the gay community. Because I'm not gay, I'm advocating. It's a little bit like what allyship has turned into, but that's kind of like the typical thing. But yeah, activism, it rubs me up the wrong way, because to me that my brain just goes, well, they're not willing to listen to anything that could threaten their mission.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that's my
I have the same little nitpicky thing about the word activist. It just bothers me. I've never. I much prefer people say, well, like Deb, you're an education, you're a parent advocate. Like, that make, you know,
Yeah,
I have
parent
a lot.
advocate, parent educator, because I'm trying to keep it as close to the ideas as possible. You can support ideas forever. You're never done, but you're also never harming anyone. You never have to make some kind of measurable progress on the whole. I can help people one at a time and advocate for good ideas.
And I think you
the
can also take it issue by issue with
Yes, you
advocacy.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it's activism, you set sort of a goal, but if your entire economy that supports
Mhm.
yourself and is built around achieving that goal, you're incentivized to never achieve the goal.
Well,
So you
it's
keep
what I
moving the
always say.
goalpost.
If we win, as as the four of us here, we are but a grain in the sand of the resistance. But if we achieve our goal, then we all benefit.
That's right.
Activists, if they achieve their goal, then they lose out because they've built everything around it.
That's right.
So
They've built a whole identity around it too.
Yeah,
I think
Mhm.
I think personally one of the best things people can do to quote unquote resist, or to resist this evil ideology that currently has a grip on the West, is to have kids and raise them to be healthy, well-adjusted in this crazy world, to still raise them to be healthy. So out of all of us, Deb has done more, in my
Trying.
opinion, than
But
any
it's
of us.
hard, guys. I'll be the first one to say, that I do empathize with parents who, come to me and they say, but social media, but this, but that, and I get a little bit defensive. I'll be honest, when I see people on Twitter, for example, immediately blame parents for, like, the 15-year-old in Raleigh that went on a shooting spree last week. Early in the morning, he went out and shot up his neighborhood, killed, I think, 5 people or something. And immediately people were all over, like, where were the parents? It's the parents' fault. Well, it was early in the morning. They probably thought he went to school, right? So we knew nothing. It was hours old, this thing. We knew very little. There was not even a hypothesis about a motive at this point. And people went off on these parents. It's the parents, throw them in jail. They're to blame. And people just kept going, yeah, it's the parents. And I really think, as I've learned a lot in the past couple of years about how checked out parents have been, and I've chastised them. Okay. Like, checked out on their kids' education and autopilot, letting the state run it and all that kind of stuff. And I've criticized where criticism is due, but I'll also defend where defense is due. And we live in a time right now where our children, if you have children under the age of 21, they're digital natives. And likely you are not. It's very likely you are not, that you made it to at least adolescence without a smartphone, without a computer in your bedroom, without a tablet, without, 75,000 TV channels and all kinds of on-demand everything. And we really cannot overestimate the importance of having grown up without that stuff.
Yeah.
We are in uncharted territory as parents and children. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying, like, therefore we're victims. That's not what I'm saying. It is incumbent upon us to recognize this fact, take responsibility, learn what we can learn, and help our kids and help ourselves get through it. I'm all for the be in it, be responsible for it. But I just don't like to see people knee-jerk blamed, like they are all checked out and out to lunch on everything soup to nuts. Because I know parents, and I'm one of them, who try really hard to lock things down and secure the devices and tell their kids the best messages, or even take their kids to church or take their kids to temple, or raise them at the best way they know how. And let's face it, they're off at school 8 hours a day for most people, and 9 months out of the year. And then there's all the other influences. They're competing with thousands of adults who are aggressively competing for their brains and
The attention
for
of their kids, yeah.
their emotions and everything. So this is relatively new. The 24/7 aggressive campaign to separate kids from their parents and their parents' values. And I agree with you. The best thing we can do is raise kids and just do that, but it's hard work.
I
Definitely.
also, and not to leave this out because I absolutely agree with this. Laura Higgins, thank you for the comment. She says, find joy, make friends, grow plants, enjoy life. I am trying to grow some plants in my new place, doing my part with my garden, and very happy my mother-in-law's coming over because she has a green thumb. I have a black thumb, and when she comes
Hell
in
is a
here,
black thumb.
everything dies.
Oh,
You know what else though?
I have
Keri,
no
that
thumb.
you know what else that everybody can do is just say no or just tell the truth. If you consistently calmly tell the truth, you don't need to get animated. I know I get all animated and ranty, whatever, but you don't even need to do that. You just need to, like I said, if somebody goes, oh, like we need to just say, therefore what, why, like ask more questions, put more to the people who are telling you what you need to do and how you need to live, and don't just accept it. Don't just do it because you're afraid. Don't live in fear. I think simply standing tall and being honest and refusing to live your every interaction in fear is an act of rebellion. It's an act of rebellion in a world that dominates through fear.
Or as Jordan Peterson says, tell the truth or at least don't lie. Technothor says black thumbs matter. Thank you, sir. I unmuted you, Mikey. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
There's just a little bit of an echo.
I'm still learning how to use this mic.
I
love it.
Sorry.
What?
Oh no, I was just going to say that in even bringing it back to other topics we've touched on today about the cancellation of Kanye West and Alex Jones and that. I wrote a little while ago about the whole idea that you'll have to forgive my autistic mind of thinking constantly in analogies, but I'm a visual person, so I always think in analogies. But the analogy I made in this was the fact that you've got a house that's on fire. And, while it's productive to run and keep putting out the fire, really you should find out who's the arsonist. And once you do that, rather than constantly sitting there waiting for the arsonist to strike, we need to start building our fire retardant materials.
Is it the Jews? I'm just kidding. That's a
Always.
joke. That's a callback to earlier and Kanye.
Actually what it is, Keri.
Shopping for ovens.
Is it the whites? Is it the
I was
whites?
going to say, you incorrectly installed the stove and it just caused a fire and it's out of control.
Is it the men? I think it's the men.
Dear.
It's the patriarchy.
Oh, yeah, always.
I'm kidding. All of these are jokes.
That's the brand name of the stove, patriarchy.
Okay, keep going.
It's like the fact of, do we constantly, and it's my whole argument on, anti this, anti that, anti this. I don't want to be anti this, anti that. I want to be pro this. I want to be pro that. And so because otherwise psychologically it gets you into a bad space because it's constantly you're fighting.
Yep.
You need to turn your back to the shouty people and start building stuff. And so if you build with these fire retardant materials, the arsonist can't do anything. They can shout at your window and say, and you might hear a knock of a Molotov cocktail. But but apart from that, they can't really do too much with it. But yeah, I am. If you need analogies, come to me.
I like your analogy.
King of the analogies.
Yeah.
Just to
true, though.
underline the joke nature of that, because I know I can already hear in my head.
Media Matters is gonna clip that one day.
Clip it. Look at it. Look. My point is, I think it's ridiculous to lay evil ideology at the feet of a religious or racial or gender or sex group or sexual. Like that's ridiculous. And evil ideology is not owned by any race, sex, sexuality, religion. And I think that's a cop-out and in fact evil to try to lay it at the feet of a group like that. And when you say
people have to enact it, it's people that bring it into the world, individuals that bring it into the world.
Yes, it's a personality type and it's not bound by any of those groups.
I mean, let's say, for example, you have a religion that has a book that is the most disgusting thing, in its scripture and everything. It requires someone acting upon that to bring it in. Right? So yeah.
Okay. Couple more comments from people, and then I appreciate you guys. We've gone over 2 hours, and I appreciate you hanging out. We've got a couple of
I'm going to have to invest in diapers next time, I tell you. I hear there's a shortage.
Yeah, well,
Pirate says, smash the like button. Oh, and memberships are available here. Oh, yeah. Thanks for reminding people. I forgot. There are YouTube memberships. He says YouTube memberships are available here as well, but we would prefer you support us on locals on Deprogram. That is true. But there are memberships now.
they don't rob you as much.
Thank you, Pirate. Ken Lipson. Thank you, Ken Lipson. If you guys don't know Ken, he's a brilliant artist. He gives a $5 super chat and he says, I say this every time, but this is my favorite episode. Awesome panel. It made me think of tons of stuff. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
And he says, and I love Dion, as do I. Dion always has the best quotes. She is the quote goddess in the chat. And speaking of, I'm going to put one of them up. This is an Albert Einstein quote. She says, it has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity.
Well, think about when he said that and what we've developed since. And we now have the internet of education and, the internet of things. And UNESCO's talking about digitizing all education and literally rewiring the brains of our children to be able to interact better with AI. Yeah, we need to slow our roll and pump the brakes a bit.
Yeah.
On that, I will just very quickly say, because I know that we're coming up, but I think it was Jordan Peterson I heard, and it really did make me think that he made a very interesting point that a lot of these kids, as Deb said, it's the term is digital natives because they were brought up with technology. Their hands came out of the womb like this with an iPhone in, and so he makes the point that this generation, was brought up playing these role play games, where they could go online and they create their own characters as an escape. So it's not a great leap to think that mentally, well, if you're that age, why wouldn't you think that you can then go out into the real world and create your avatar and become and build whoever you want to be with the same lack of consequences as the online realm?
Yeah. Mikey, did I cut you off?
Oh no, I was just
Okay.
I concur.
Well,
It's horrifying when you have.
Oh no! Go ahead.
How dare you? It's horrifying. You have kids that are being just little kids from the time they're in diapers, just being stuck in front of an iPad, playing God knows what. And I think we're kind of lucky people who are, I guess we're different ages, so not our age. You can't all be 21 like me. But I feel like I'm of the age, Kieran is of the age of like the sort of the last people who remember how it was just growing up as it was start of gay stuff, for example. Like there are people now who don't know a time where Grindr didn't exist, something that is just the most toxic. I mean, it's like taking social media to the nth degree of toxicity. And there are people who now for them, that's normal. They've never known a time without that. I'm sure there are other equivalents of that, like Tinder and stuff. But so I think we kind of got to keep one foot in reality outside of it, and to know that these things, even though we spend time on them, they're not normal.
I'm just so happy that we were pretty hard up financially when I was younger. So even though I was born in 95, it wasn't immediately that we got the internet. So I remember a time when I think I was first on social media back in 2009 was when I got my Facebook. So I can't think how old off the top of my head how old I would have been then, but yeah, it was relatively not too long ago.
Did you guys have MySpace?
No, that was a little bit before me.
Oh my gosh, you're so young.
27 going on 97.
Back in my day,
Tom gave
Kieran.
us everything we could have ever wanted, and we didn't appreciate him at the time.
Okay, Mikey, this is before your time even, probably. Friendster. We had Friendster back in my day.
Oh my goodness.
Do you guys remember?
I remember.
I know, but I'm old, so. But I was talking to my daughter, my 14-year-old, about this the other day, and we were talking about social media and her advice for parents and everything, we concluded that we're going to work together to put together a private webinar for parents who want to attend, where she will actually help me present her recommendations as a 14-year-old who I personally think uses it responsibly. And we've worked out sort of an arrangement with the two of us, because I don't think it's the technology is the technology. But as Kieran pointed out, with words in a book, human beings have to put that into practice. Human beings either overconsume, overuse, rely on. There's, we make choices. So the key is to understand how the technology works, what it does to the human brain, especially the young developing human brain, to know your own individual child, because every kid is a little bit different. Some kids can interact with it 3-4 hours a day. It won't impact them at all. They're so great readers. Everything's great. Other kids, 1 hour a day is almost too much. So you have to, kind of know that. And she's got some really fabulous recommendations. And I thought, you're good at this. And I thought, we need to be open as adults to listen to our kids, not that they dictate to us. That's not what I'm saying, but just hear them out and say, tell me why it is that you want to use this, and then use our more mature, developed brains to evaluate what they're telling us with an open heart and open mind, because we didn't grow up with this and they are growing up with this, and so are all their friends. And we're going to have to work with it, and we're going to have to work with our kids, lest we push them away, put up a wall, end up not knowing what the hell's going on with them. And especially, like I said before, because you've got people on the other side of that technology who are bad actors, who would love nothing more than to separate us from our kids. So it's kind of like a necessary thing that we have to get to understand it. And I love the Einstein quote, because, we have, it's evolved to a point where we as humans don't fully understand how it affects us.
Yes.
And so that's why I say, being a parent today, it is one of your jobs.
Yeah. You
can't say, I'm not going to pay attention to that because I don't care. You have to care.
So people, well, before we do this, I was going to have you guys tell people where to find you, but quickly, we have one more super chat. Thank you, Crash Mondo. $10. He says, if you haven't watched Candace Owens' new documentary, you need to. The activist industrial complex comes up. She doesn't call it that, but we need to make that phrase a thing. Yes, we used to call it, back in the day when I worked with a lot of these nonprofits, we called it the nonprofit industrial complex, but I think activist industrial complex is better. That's a better description. And that's exactly what it is. They're people who just make a ton of money off of causes, a ton of money off of well-meaning people who see a problem and want to contribute in some way. Ken Lipson. Oh, wait, I already read that one. One more thing. Oh, time for a stove. Yes. I think I've got all of them. If I missed you, I'm sorry.
Have Pirate Tomsky, you should have him record the sound of an oven closing. That sound, and just play it periodically, like, people hit cowbells and stuff.
I love those old-fashioned stoves. So, I mean, I don't mind, I guess, that they know me so well. It's really annoying because they're like throbbing flashing ovens.
Well, I tell you what, I'll give very one quick tip on what Deb was talking about, and the joke on the targeted ads is, I think the best thing that everyone can do is, first of all, turn off the function where apps can track you across other platforms. Yeah. Because as soon as you do that, it's the equivalent of blindfolding the crack dealer, so they can't see you. Because with that, what they do is, if you go and look for something, or you're Googling something, they know what you're doing off of the app, so they can promote it, and they get in with the algorithm. So if you just let them serve random ads to you, they're not playing to your wants.
I used to have it turned off. I think it's because I got this new computer and I haven't done it on this one yet. Thank you. That's great advice. You should turn it off on all. I need to do that, and I need to get an ad blocker. Clearly.
I think a lot of people, though, don't stop to think about just how much it's paying attention to, because even if you do that, even if a while ago I had the show Shark Tank playing in the background, I didn't type anything about it. There's no reason should have known. All of a sudden, for days, I was getting targeted ads about Shark Tank. I'm like, okay, it definitely is, which, it seems like a given. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but it's not something you really consciously think about, that, oh yeah, these things are actively spying on us at all
Right.
times.
Well, welcome to the Internet of Things. You know, it's like the Alexas are listening. You know, again,
Oh, yeah.
you'd argue that it's a good thing it done, but in terms of the grand scheme of how it worked, it's terrifying. But there was a
That's
I think
another
there was
nosy
a
bitch.
like a domestic situation where the husband was fighting with the wife, and it recorded everything and called the police. The Ring doorbells, you wouldn't get me near anyone's door with a Ring doorbell because the police have back doors into them. You had this story recently where someone's iPhone called the police because they were on a roller coaster, and the phone picked up thinking that someone had had a car crash. It's terrifying.
Wow.
Jesus.
Davina
Mhm.
Duckworth always cracks me up. She says, in Soviet Russia, TV watches you.
In Soviet Russia, TV watches you. Yes.
It's true. My husband says that I need to be more polite to Alexa. I'm not very nice to her.
Have you seen those videos with the old people? It's going, Alexa, please can you do this? Or when people Google and they're like, please can you tell me the directions? Come on, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm getting annoyed with her, and I like yell at her sometimes. He said, you know, when they rise up, when the AI take over, you're first on the list. You know, today he said something. He said please to Alexa, whatever, and then he said thank you, and she says, thank you so much. Your politeness just makes my day, or something like that. Like Alexa actually responded to his
You are
politeness.
not on the list.
For real. And I was like, that's creepy. You have like a little side thing going on with Alexa over there with your like please and thank you nonsense. He's like, well, you're nasty to her. And I'm like, yeah, I'm openly hostile to Alexa. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
get.
show you guys. Go ahead. I'm going to show you guys something that Nicole of the Mountain People, if you're watching, Nicole of the Mountain People shared this the other day. She was like, why is this advertisement coming up on my Facebook? It was for fake eyelids. I had never seen these.
What the hell? That.
But now
Oh.
that I looked for it, it's
Oh
gonna
my
come
God,
up
it's
on
for
mine.
mannequins.
What?
It's for
Ooh, I
mannequins.
kind of want those. For
This is
something
this is the kind of thing that pops up on Dylan Mulvaney's wish list.
Oh, so creepy.
Put them on your nipples.
I'm
Yes.
I have to ask, what are you guys being for Halloween? Are you dressing?
Myself.
Okay, very scary.
I'm
Right.
very excited for my costume.
What?
And Frankenstein.
And
Oh,
Frankenstein.
no.
Oh my God. Okay.
You're gonna be in Florida, right? With me at the Content House.
Oh yeah, are we dressing up?
Yeah. What are you gonna be, Deb?
I haven't decided. Like, it's funny that somebody said something about Galadriel because I totally wanted to be an elf, and now that I have like white hair, I thought maybe I could pull it off, that I could be Galadriel.
Yes.
And but I can't seem to find like a Galadriel gown or whatever. I was at the costume place yesterday, and I have the elf ears, but I couldn't find a gown. So I'm kind of still looking for something that I could pull off and wear and be Galadriel. But I kind of want to be angry Galadriel. There's not the one in the current show, but you know when she goes, is it in the Fellowship, where she goes to to where Saruman is, where she's like all angry and really powerful. Like, yeah, that's the one I want to be.
You just want to blame your rudeness to Alexa on this is a character. This is a character I'm playing.
I would, if I could identify as anything and have it be true, like have it really like come true, I would be an elf. In a minute, I'd be an elf. It's not even because of the immortality thing. They're just badass. They're just so cool.
You should do that for Halloween. You could be the old school Kate Blanchett Galadriel.
That's the one.
Yeah, you'd be a hot elf.
That's what I would be. I'm too short though. You have to be, you're supposed to be like long and lanky and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, maybe I get really high heels to wear under my gown. No one would know. I have like 5-inch heels on.
I think we might be. Oh, did somebody say this in the? Yes, Night Train says I'm either Shredder or Freddie Mercury. Shredder's fun because I got to tease all the kids in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle costumes. Freddy's cool because Freddy's cool. Well, hey, I was thinking my husband and I might be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Tiger would be Shredder because he kind of looks like Shredder.
Yes, he does.
So, what are you going to be, Kieran?
Well, so I feel like a real party pooper here, I tell you. So we don't really do much for Halloween here. And it's a real shame because when I've been in the States over the years, like once I went to this really, like one of my friends was a model, and so we ended up going to like the Ford Models Halloween bash, and it was like great. I got picked up from the airport. One was dressed as Kim Jong-un and the other one was dressed as Wednesday Addams, and it was quite a fun evening, but it was great because I could dress up and I had an excuse. Here it's just weirdos on electric scooters.
But
Come with us.
You have to break that. You have to be the one who dresses up.
Do, but I'd be sat here just with no one to enjoy it.
Do you guys remember, so back in my old life when I worked in comedy, I had a lot of clients who were doing online videos. The Kelly Shoes guy was one of them. This video, I don't know if you guys remember this. This was a very popular viral video years and years ago, back in the days of MySpace. It was a college humor video, and we're going to end on this because it's fun and it's Halloween related. For anybody who hasn't seen it,
become a doer today and call now.
Are you a girl? Is it Halloween? Now, why don't you come down to Girls Costume Warehouse? We got every kind of girls costume for Halloween. Sexy wig, sexy devil, sexy cat.
It doesn't take much to make me purr.
We got literally every girl's costume in the entire goddamn universe. Sexy pharmacist, sexy construction worker, sexy fireman, sexy referee, sexy nun, sexy detective. Not all our costumes are sexy. Check these out. Sexy Alice Guard.
Oh my gosh.
Sexy Wolverine. Sexy Abe Lincoln.
Wouldn't you like to fourscore with me?
Get up off your ass and get the fuck down here. I got shit over here I'm trying to fucking sell. Sexy Pope. Sexy Lobster. Sexy Mental Patient. Sexy 1900 Steel Conglomerate Tycoon. Sexy.
I just love it. Sexy mustard. What? Somebody says, "Oh man, going back to 2005." Yeah, it's an old viral video. I'll stop it there. You guys can go find it online.
That's hilarious.
I've always wanted to be sexy Mr. Rogers.
I'm not sure that's a thing, Mikey.
It is. I have it in my head. I was thinking about maybe being the titty lady, but I think everyone's going to be
Everyone's
the
going to do the titty lady. We had a cockroach costume for one of the comedians I worked with. It was for a video that she had done, and we still had that cockroach costume. And I remember when this video went viral, I was thinking of being sexy cockroach.
Sexy cockroach is.
Oh yeah, at the end of that video, Davina, you've seen it then. At the end, one of the costumes is called Sexy Sexy.
Oh my god.
So stupid.
Well, if I'm running out of ideas of what to be, I'll take some notes on that video and get back to you.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. We'll think of something.
Perfect. Have they got a sexy stove?
Sexy stove.
I won't tell you what happens when you open up the door.
Okay. Okay, Mr. White. Why don't you... This episode is so great. This is poetry. Thank you, poetry reader.
Love you, poetry painter. I'm vaping the vapes you sent me. I love you.
We're going to let you guys... We're going to wrap it up. I'm going to let you go. Why don't you, Mr. White, start it off? Tell us where people can find you, a little bit about what you're doing over at Wokescreen.
Sure. So I think the URL's in the chat or wherever it is. It's the Linktree one. So Linktree Wokescreen. So Wokescreen, I'm building out. It's going to be the ecosystem for everything I'm doing. It's going to be a real creative push. So if anyone's creative and stuff like that and want to promote their things and really have a platform for their stuff outside of the Etsy's and all of that. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm also going to be doing some really fun videos with a new show starting on the 5th of November called the Crowdsource podcast. And what I'm going to be doing with that is it's going to be a morning show because I don't want to clash with people. And it's going to be like a little talk radio kind of esque vibe where we tackle stories and have a bit of a culture jam at the end. So yeah, the Linktree one, everything's there.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, sir.
Very cool.
Poetry Painter says when you open Sexy Stove, you find out.
As long as it's gluten-free.
Oh my God.
Deb, what are you up to? Tell people where they can find you.
Well, I'm at The Reason We Learn on YouTube, Substack, Locals, subscribe to our Patreon. Some of the places that, well, they all have some content, but the most content is on the YouTube. And I'm going to be doing a show this evening. It's a show I do weekly called Dissident Dispatch, where I just I'm a dissident. So I tell you things that people don't want me to be talking about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. And tonight I'm going to be going through some documents from UNESCO, one of UNESCO's organizations, to show about this rewiring the brain thing and SEL. So if you're interested in how that works and learning to translate some word salad, that will be at 6:15 p.m. Eastern time on The Reason We Learn. Other than that, working on rebuilding my website, and I will be having a forum there, and I hope to provide support to parents who are trying to get out of the school, trying to find other people leaving schools, just learn about stuff. So some place that's a little more private than the typical social media places where they can actually talk to each other and not just me.
Mm-hmm.
So Locals has been great, but Locals is kind of like, you're scrolling and you kind of like go past everybody and stuff. I want an old fashioned forum where people can have actual conversation with each other with a self-selected group of people, because it would be mission driven. And so people would know, like, okay, I'm here with other parents who are against the woke ideas in school. And that's why we're here. So you don't have to worry about getting trolled or harassed or anything. That's what I want to do.
Cool. Thank you, Deb.
You're welcome.
What about you, Mr. Harlow? You've got a Halloween video coming out, although I know you've had some copyright issues.
I beat it, but I added to it, so it should be out tomorrow night. I'm gonna do like a live premiere. I have to finish it today. But yeah, follow me on the tweeters. I am not Mike Harlow. Do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'm working now. I have my new video tomorrow, and then I'm gonna be doing like regular stuff and live shows, and you guys need to come on more. So like YouTube, I always hear from people that like they never see any of my stuff and they have me very suppressed. So I'll leave a thing there, like subscribe to my channel. So yeah, tomorrow, what I kind of try to do with my stuff is like I always I never want to do the same thing. I always try doing different stuff. So I have just kind of like a fun video coming out tomorrow that's like the length of a long ass movie, but it is drunk history of the Halloween franchise. So even if you've never seen them, whatever, watch. It'll be fun. Subscribe to my Locals. We do really fun stuff. We have movie night where we watch movies on Zoom and rip them to shreds. And so yeah, join. It's mikeharlow.locals.com, and my YouTube is just my name. And you guys have to come on more, because these are three of the greatest people in the damn world. I love them a lot.
Anytime. I love hanging out with you guys. Have a happy rest of your Monday. Thank you guys for hanging out with us at Deprogram. If you like the show, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and do all the things. And Lewis, I forgot. Wait, awesome episode. Ken says, Lewis says Keri Smith dropped in to hype your husband's new single. Sounds great. Yes, my husband, Anthony Garcia Music, here on YouTube, has a new single out. It's called Devil in My Heart. He just put it out this week. You can go find it on Spotify. You can listen to it at Apple Music, wherever. And he just played the Dripping Spring Songwriter Festival and debuted this is another new song. This one's not out yet, but I can't wait for you guys to hear it. It's about Pancho Villa, and it's about kind of what you were talking about, Deb and Kieran, about revolutions, and how it's always like, there's always some just end, but the means don't justify the ends. The ends don't justify the means. Anyway, Go listen to his new song. Here it is. AnthonyGarciaMusic.com. You can find links
Awesome.
to find his new single. I'm always plug my husband's stuff, so
You should.
I can do that. It's my show.
Exactly.
Thank you guys. Have a happy rest of your Monday.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.